Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
And we're back in good form. This is a slightly new intro. You notice we use some of our real names as well. Why? Some of you crew members and cast might wonder as well, because this will be on IMDb. So now we're listed. It's one more credit to your thing. Synctank, the official show. So that's kind of nice. But with us is Paranoid American. Thomas, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, and I love the new intro, man. The vocals and everything. Like every single time, the intro is just like brings a smile to my face. I love it,
dude. The AI, bro. She's with us. Eddie, how are you doing?
Oh, you shouldn't say AI. That just ruined a lot of.
AI means love in Chinese. Doesn't it?
That?
AI isn't AI love in Mandarin?
No. I just say I.
Okay, I. Yeah. Right. So I mean, we're pretty close. Yeah, there is no A. It's just us. We're all I. That's not bad. I don't know. So there's been some crazy things going on this last week. Obviously, there's a blizzard. We've been talking a little bit about the geoengineering. We remember Seth had said Mexico banned chemtrails. Then the next month we've got snowstorm with a blizzard in Arizona and in San Diego.
I think I have a good suspicion because, after all that rumor about the Turkish earthquake is caused by HARP and all that, you cannot use you cannot use HARP ionosphere heater without affecting the weather. So I think it's a ripple. It's basically causing like chaotic global weather pattern. Also, Disneyland, they were spraying like these pentagram chemtrails like crazy like 2 weeks ago.
David will be with us, I think, on next week. Oh, and also throughout the week. Tonight, I think he's performing some sort of a ritual. I don't know for sure, but something fun. But I think maybe Frank Zero is going to join us if he's awake, because you know how time space works for synchronicity artists. But I wanted to, in conjunction with what you just said, Eddie, bring up cell phones, because it's not like I'm a big anti 5G guy. I use 5G to do streams from my car, right, or Spain. So I've been using 5G for a while, longer than a lot of people, because they said, oh, we'll have 5G by this year. Well, what that means is for the last 2 or 3 years, they've had pilot cities. And I went to all of these cities around Spain and Europe and France that had 5G already. So there already has been 5G. And then before that, you've had all these other cell signals. We talk about the idea of radiation, but also the idea of creating radio fields that things can ride on, right? We're creating currents with the cellular signal. Do you think that somehow is going to play into this, or is that just more hippie talk?
I don't think 5G is powerful enough. I mean, it's still very ground based. I don't know. I mean, I have. I'll be honest. I have 5G because Spectrum was like ripping me off. So I thought I'm gonna get everything with T-Mobile. So
yeah.
So I so far I haven't lost my sperm count. It's sitting right next to me right here.
That's
I'm
good.
still gonna make more babies.
Do you
later,
do that regularly? Do you regularly check your
No,
sperm count?
I
I'm
don't
curious
know.
about people that do that. I want to know if that's like a part of a lifestyle. You know, I just
I
want to
just
make
want to
sure
make
I'm
sure
still.
if I don't grow an additional finger, I'll be fine. You know, I'll be happy.
It's more of a taste test kind of operation.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, all right, but then this is the thing that people leave out sometimes is the sulfur aerosols that come from volcanoes. So they're saying, oh, there's no geoengineering because all that's happening in some of these places is that chemtrails that are being naturally produced are being pushed up into the ionosphere, and then they're bouncing on radio controlled ions, which is then manipulating clouds themselves. So there could very well be that cellular signal are pushing clouds around those bullies. And the fact that those clouds could be made out of volcano sulfuric aerosols, I mean, this is part of what naturalists have called climate change. This is literally just this is climate change, right? But this is controlled climate change. This is where our government and our companies, what's it called, Making Sunsets, I believe was the name of the company that Mexico got in trouble with.
Well, you know that movie Arrival, right? You know, with Charlie Sheen.
Oh God, I love that movie.
Before he got AIDS, you know, poor guy.
Or they gave him AIDS. We all know how that happened.
I think he was about to blow the whistle on what the movie really meant, and then they gave him all the disease.
Yeah, we all knew the Mexican music was an innuendo. But what is Arrival about?
Arrival is basically about the scientist. He plays a scientist who's figuring out that
he's a climate change scientist. He's like, wait, why is the climate changing so fast? What are we doing?
There's like more sulfur in the air, and it's rising temperatures, and he went to Mexico, and then
because he's listening to the radio, and all of a sudden he hears da 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 da, and all of a sudden in the middle of the cucaracha it goes aliens, and he's like, wait a second,
illegal.
They're using trumpets to hide the alien signal, right? So that's why they've got all this music that's blasting around that you can't hear the subtle frequencies inside of it, which are sending data. And where's the data coming from? These Latin American, German-owned world energy companies and telecommunication companies.
But since you mentioned volcano, that's why I have to mention that. That's why they found the alien base was inside of a volcano.
Oh, that's right.
And also, you heard of stories of UFO sightings coming straight out of the lava, right out of the volcano. What do you call it? The caldera. You see all the time. Now he comes out of the ocean, but also out of volcanoes too. So
I can't hear that and not immediately think Scientology too. And even if the links are weak, but an alien civilization living inside of a volcano that's trying to make the Earth more habitable to them, it kind of sounds like that jam.
I mean, there's so much there, though. Did you guys watch the Final Fantasy movie from 1999?
Oh, I almost worked on it. Did I tell you that story?
Tell me.
I don't know. Maybe I should tell you just real quick before I jump on this subject.
Yeah, dude.
Because I was working for Squaresoft. I was doing. I was doing artwork for Parasite Eve, the video game. That was my very first job after CalArts. Because I was supposed to work for Brad Bird, but then he got fired from a tenor animation, so I lost all my connections. But this job was the only thing that was open, so I jumped down, and I did a side contract because I thought Brad Bird's going to sign me on to the next Iron Giant film.
Oh,
and then so I was waiting for that to happen because he interviewed me. I'm not trying to brag anything, but
then they
everything fell apart. So I was supposed to sign a contract with Squaresoft, the Japanese company that they moved to Venice Beach, they moved to Marina del Rey to produce all these games and the movie. The biggest thing is that
which you can tell too, which is really nuts. If you see the new game, Final Fantasy, I think it's 15 or is it 17? I just was playing this game. It's a freaking fever dream. No, is it 17?
The most famous one, most popular one is Final Fantasy 7, which I could have worked on.
Don't even get it started, man.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
Just finish the story real quick. I was supposed to go to Honolulu because they ship everybody. All these guys, American, Japanese, they ship everybody to Honolulu. They cover all the expenses paid. They get brand new apartments, brand new car.
Yeah,
and then
that's how the Yakuza take over the country. They're trying. They're not as good as the Chinese at it, but
Oh, I hear about that. There's a Yakuza sushi joint in Malibu.
My brother, I was finding my brother the other day. Like he had a surgery because my brother works with cars and stuff, and he nearly lost his finger. And it costs money to get his finger back on, and he's kind of worried about it. I'm like, well, I had a wrist surgery and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I could have lived without a finger. And I'm like, well, I know about a half a dozen guys. I got a half a dozen friends friends who only were missing like half their finger, but they all are Yakuza and they did it intentionally. So I don't know. And he just sat there for like 10 seconds before he started laughing, but it's true. I mean, like, you don't want to lose that finger unless you want to lose that finger. All right. I don't know.
It's you can see the whole procedure.
Point is, they own big sections of Hawaii that the billionaire Ellison hasn't purchased yet. Okay, they still own something here, and Disney's bought a lot of the islands. Japanese holiday abandoned island.
So let me just. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting. So I didn't get to go to Hawaii, right? Because I didn't sign a contract. All these guys, all these Japanese CEOs from Squaresoft, they all bought land in Honolulu.
Right.
So it was literally like a Japanese invasion. They basically got themselves U.S. citizenship.
They do this. This is an example of the Japanese. They buy islands, they completely take them over, and then they disappear, and then they have these abandoned haunted hotel islands, and that's what they wanted to do to Hawaii. That's crazy. I don't keep going.
But so it beats Pearl Harbor, right?
Yeah, really. It's more.
You don't have to drop anything, no bombs.
It's crazy you brought this Final Fantasy movie up too, because I think this was one of the original movies that they were trying to train a completely digital actor, and they were trying to make this girl, I forgot she had like a name, but they were trying to make it so that she had all these poses and facial expressions, and that they were going to try to shop her to like other movie and other companies,
and they did shop the rigs. This led to selling rigs in a lot of ways. So people were getting facial rigs, muscle twitch rigs, and if you remember that movie with Al Pacino, God, what was that about? Remember the AI girl? He has an AI model.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this. This movie, when it came out, when it was in production, it was all done in Honolulu. Okay, so half of the crew, American crew, they came from Digital Domain, my bosses. They were the one who they just finished working on Titanic. So Titanic being the most expensive movie at the time, this became the most expensive animation of all time. It just cost $200+ million,
and it was littered with Scientologists.
It bankrupted.
Yeah. The story was clearly written by Scientologists. The story is that they're on a post-apocalyptic Earth where ghost aliens are possessing people's bodies and killing them, and the ghost aliens aren't evil. They're just confused because they were put on a prison jet, brought into a volcano, and lost on the Earth. So if it's not written by L. Ron Hubbard, it certainly is inspired. But then the moment I realized this too, because I was like 10 years old and I'd barely gotten into the Dianetics book. I think it was like 11 or something. 10. I was about 10 years old, and the what's his name? Buscemi. Steve Buscemi's in Final Fantasy movie, and they're explaining to the Steve Buscemi character about how these alien ghosts have possessed these human bodies and what thetans are, without using the word. And all of a sudden, Steve Buscemi's character goes, right as I'm thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. Steve Buscemi's character goes, this is all starting to make a weird kind of sense. I was like, oh God, this is Scientology. I've seen these ads, And
I think Scientology is influencing some people in Japan too. I mean,
absolutely.
But I tell this crazy story. This guy, the CEO of Squaresoft at the time, his name is Sakaguchi. I don't care. I don't work. I never worked with that guy again.
Sakaguchi sack.
Yeah. So you guys heard of the game, right? Parasite Eve. It was based on the Japanese horror novel. So that was a job I worked on back in 1997.
Oh, interesting.
So what happened is that there's a scene where the opera house got caught on fire because it's not about mutation, about medical mutation. It's about mitochondria mutations. So this woman, so basically the whole theater got caught on fire, and like it's just over dramatic, And this Sakaguchi, he would come to my office and specifically address how to do the scene, and I said, why this guy's like obsessed with this scene? This is the highlight of my career, to work on the people getting burned alive, and then I later found out that his mom died in the fire in Japan,
right?
And he wanted to remember her. He's
wow!
Like, I want to learn how she suffered in the fire. He was recreating the scene of how his mom got burned alive. I was like, oh my God, this guy's a
dude. Japanese people are rad. All right, so then the movie Simone. It's S1M0NONE. It's this old Al Pacino movie. I thought some of you have seen this. This is the subtle disclosure that AI actresses and photoshopping will eventually completely replace the person. And there's actresses who have like a cute little facial twitch, and he steals it and puts it into his actress so she can do all the things that everyone else can do. And it kind of tells you like where we're going to be right now, all the things that are happening right now with AI. Did you guys see my AI song I did?
I loved it, man. Both of them.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm gonna see if I can.
listened to it.
Is there a way I can play? I can't even play it in this thing. It's annoying. Whatever. Yes, I can. Helena, audio hijack, Libertine album whole right there, and then I have to turn on audio hijack, change the settings to do
OTO.
I'm not hearing anything.
Is it playing?
Is that working?
Oh, there it goes. There it goes.
When I was still pretty young, about 15 is all day and spend all night having fun. It was my thing. I chased the moon as I hid from the sun. As I would think I went to bed as the day begun. I had a dream I dreamt inside my head was a troll, and inside my heart was a hole. And inside that hole, 2 wolves fought over my soul. Over my soul. Yeah. And then I met this girl. She made me feel so whole. She made me feel so fine. She made me feel so over my soul. Yeah.
Man, how crazy is that? That's so insane.
And you said that would be
that's,
impossible to do in real life. What part of that would have been impossible?
That part. The octaves.
I used to be able to sing that when I was younger because I used to play water polo. And if you like have enough breath, basically, but if you start smoking, it's impossible. And to keep your breath and to change pitches a lot was really almost impossible to like, because you always have to take a breath. So you could cut it and then you could do part of it and then do the other part of it and remove the breath in there. But the amount of breath it takes to continue notes that long without taking a breath is very difficult. And that sounds a lot more real than Vocaloid, right? Which is the Japanese one that people are familiar with. Hatsune Miku, is that right?
Marco.
Yeah, that one has a very specific sound to it.
Right. I mean, this is an amazing thing. I don't know how many Americans are too familiar with Hatsune Miku. I think a lot of people have heard of it.
I already saw 2 Japanese men married her. I was like, how could you marry AI? You know,
dude, polyamory with an AI. AI-amory. Basically, what they do is they have. I wish I could see the live show, but they have a live hologram, and they've had this since before the Michael Jackson thing, where people will go. I can't even find it. Hatsune Miku live. Hatsune Miku live show. There, they'll project a hologram, and there's thousands of people there, and they're all got their phones and their glow sticks, and they're watching this robot sing. And
you know what? I think the depopulation starts.
That's the thing.
Asia.
It does. It starts in Japan.
They did all these simps, whatever you want to call them. They're like,
I think
I love you, devotion.
I think it's even more. I think it's even more tragic than even that. And here's what I think is going on. So we've always copied Japan because Japan was so collapsed that out of chaos comes order. So the new future came to Japan first because they collapsed everything and they rebuilt first. But the thing that comes with the future in Japan is also population drop, right? And so they've been dealing with extreme population drop and senility because they have all these old people around and they're used to robots. It's
happening to Korea. Korea just reached that landmark too last week. There are a lot more old people than the babies that are born now, and basically, yeah, they're on track of disappearing. Basically, the whole report, I think it was CBS. It's like they can't see any young children on the streets anymore. It's all these like old people like cleaning the streets, with the sticks, and it's like babies. Like, where are the babies?
Oh my god!
Some babies.
But is that like part of all of our future? Then is we are becoming more and more like Japan. We did, and now we're going to see population drop. A lot of old people. I drive around now. Everyone I see has white hair.
There was
not a lot of people my age drive in this area.
I gotta look up the article, but it's talking about in the U.S. where all these after all the COVID lockdown, like all these young men, they just don't know how to approach girls anymore. I don't know if it's also because of all the sexual, the the pronouns and all that crap that's been going on, brainwashing our kids.
I think people are afraid that if they talk to each other, they're going to be remembered for saying something stupid, or also they're going to be misunderstood. And it's so hard to be understood already without people actively trying to feel like you're bad. People are walking around thinking to themselves that you hate them or that every man is evil. They're afraid that they're going to be part of, like, a lot of white males especially are thought, oh man, I don't want to be thought of as a white male, the same way that a black male felt like he was going to be prejudiced against 40, 50 years ago. I mean, not exactly the same, of course, but there's a new racism that's emerged. It's not really racism, it's classism. It's not genderism. There's three classes.
You look at in New Zealand, if kids are getting arrested by affirming that there are only two sexes. It's like, no, there's only male and female, and then instantly police come out of nowhere, just drag him.
I put
beat him like two more.
Thank God. All right, here's a Korean for more perspective on the dating scene. I won't call him an incel. He might be a volcel, or he might be in love, but he's Korean.
Yo, sorry I'm late. I swear, like, the dumbest shit always comes up last
A wizard
minute
is never late, Gunwoo. A wizard arrives exactly when he means to. I put this the other day. There are 0 genders and 3 classes. I didn't really extend my point, but I think there really are only 3 classes. There's this the elite, there's the perpetuators, and there's the victims. I'm sorry if that's a little Marxist, but I think women, men, different nationalities even have been equipped for class pursuit. They say, okay, well, this group, the Indians, oh, they're very useful to us this way. Oh, the Chinese, oh, they're very useful. Oh, the Africans, oh, we can use them this way. And so national racism has actually, we of course say, oh, well, they don't do what we want them to do, so therefore they're bad races. This is all objectively classism still.
That's I can do more than just making railroads, man. I swear to God.
I believe in you. I believe in you.
On topic of gender, didn't John Money create the term gender like completely out of like thin air?
Tell me more. I'll go look up John Money. Who's John Money?
John Money.
John Money. Oh yeah, John Money, Dr. Money from the University of what's it?
New Zealand.
No, he was at John Hopkins or something, right?
No, he's from Harvard and University of Wellington. He's a New Zealand sexologist. I have his Wikipedia pulled up right now. But yeah, he completely came up with the social construct of gender and gender identity.
Right. This is the guy who cut off the boy's wiener. No, there was a child who had a botched circumcision, and he said, quote, "In this world, there are not a lot of opportunities for a boy without a penis. He should be raised as a girl," end quote. And so from there, they raised this boy as a girl.
He finished the job. He's like, it's botched. Might as well let me get rid of the rest of it.
And he made the younger brother and the sex changed boy go through sexual games as children, where he made them take off their clothes and emulate sexual acts on each other to teach them how to be feminine.
You mean he's not identified as a pedophile?
No, he's identified as a gender sociologist and as a doctor.
No, he's not a pedophile because it's professional research.
I also
if you do with John Hopkins,
I don't see the love. I don't see the love for children in here. He sounds like another Mengele, really. But this guy, most people don't know the whole story, and this is what has been used for a long time for transgenderism. They say, "Oh well, look, Dr. Money, he had a lot of good stuff to say. He performed the first transgender surgery on a child. Looks like he's a really good guy to listen to." They don't go deeper and find that the kid found out committed suicide after trying to convert back to being a male. So, nothing good came from this.
Do we know what John Money's MK Ultra code name was?
I thought Money
Dr.
was
White,
the code.
Dr. Green, maybe
Probably Green.
Dr. Money.
Dr. Money sounds already like a code name, doesn't it? I mean, it's
because Dr. Green's usually associated with Mengele. Dr. White's associated with Dr. Ewan Cameron,
right?
And I think there was a Dr. Black and
MK Ultra, Dr. Green.
He kind of looks like who's that in the NLP neurological programming? Oh God!
Richard Bandler?
No, the Jewish guy, Noam Chomsky. He kind of looks like Noam.
The
Chomsky.
problem is he's from New Zealand. He's from New Zealand, so if he's from New Zealand, then he could easily be Five Eyes, and there's a lot more going on than just MK Ultra. MK Ultra is a really small aspect, especially when you get to British mind control.
MK Ultra was just the guys cutting the checks. That was essentially all that was.
MK Ultra is when the CIA started outsourcing. Yeah, I think that's another way to put it too.
Yeah, then they brought it to Canada too. You and Cameron went up there, and then everybody went somewhere. All
Oh,
these
yeah, so
Commonwealth
John Money
countries.
was
All
also in John Hopkins as well, and apparently there is a connection between him and MK Ultra. I did not know that.
Also,
Yeah.
traditional gender roles of Korea. So, I mean, think of it like this. We, for a long time, worked together as family nuclei. And so there were roles that were played in the household. It's not necessarily that a woman's job is in the kitchen or a man's job is in the barbecue pit or something. It's just that is the way things evolved for a period of time. I don't know. The gender rules are very strange to me because some people push so hard. We need to go back to traditional values. I'm like, I don't know.
We need to go back to. That's why we need a nuclear war. We need to go back to hunter gatherers. Just nuke
Okay,
the whole
Klaus
damn
Schwab.
thing.
Jeez, yeah.
We have to start hunting for mice, and woman will be cooking the mice for us.
See, this is the thing. I feel like the people that are saying, "Oh, we have to stop the reset," are also saying that. They're saying we need to get back to these traditional values where we're in. And this, you know, who else loves traditional values? The Taliban comes to mind.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I want to know which of these options comes with air conditioning, because so far none of these really come with it. Taliban doesn't come with air conditioning. I'm almost positive.
The Taliban made that cool
Yeah,
car, didn't they? Or is that wrong? Is that
No,
Al-Qaeda?
I frankly, I didn't want to live in a country where with this burqa you can't see any girl's face. That kind of sucks.
I think
you know what I mean?
Al-Qaeda race car. Is that the one? Al-Qaeda made the race car. Come on.
Yeah, the supercar. Yeah.
Yeah. If it was Taliban, they probably wouldn't do the race car. Where is it at?
Oh yeah. I remember. No. It's not Al Qaeda. It's Taliban race car.
It is?
It's the
The
Taliban.
Taliban's cool.
Taliban
But
supercar.
look it up. It's
supercar.
very funny. I mean, it's a beautiful car, but
Yeah.
it has like Toyota motor.
Yeah,
I've never
so-
heard of this. This is
It's like
insane.
it
So-
has a Mazda engine. It has a Mazda engine.
Oh, this is
And
this
look it up.
year.
Well,
It's
when
that
you-
Toyota Magic. I mean, they
when
already
you-
had the Hiluxes. Might as well.
When you say Mazda
Look at
engine,
that.
you're forgetting it's like it is a rotary engine. It's a wangle nut engine.
No,
So it's not just it's
a
beyond
retrofitted-
just it's the best
it's a-
Mazda.
It's a retrofitted Mazda engine
Yeah.
put in the back.
And
I
it's
think
not
a
going to
Miata
break
there.
because the Miata rotary engine is designed to break after 160,000 miles and snap. And this isn't. So this
Oh.
is the future of Islam. This is Sharia on
God.
wheels.
This is
I
a
don't
Knight
know.
Rider.
I don't know, man. That's pretty sexy. But
I mean,
You
speaking
played
of
a-
Sharia law and like
you
East
played
Asian
Knight
gender
Rider.
roles, like I've also heard a lot
I
of
bet
people
that has air
reference.
conditioning, is all I'm saying.
I've also heard a lot of people reference like this apparently quote unquote third gender that's been recognized by Japan called the Wakashu, where like men would pretty much like were femboys, ancient femboys.
Yeah, they've had
And-
any island seems in
Takuno.
anthropology. I found
Takuno.
thousands of examples of islands that had overpopulation, and when they hit an overpopulation point, hit almost every time a third gender emerges, which
Yeah,
is
that's-
essentially an emasculated man that doesn't reproduce.
Yeah, that's also a biological theme as well. You see this with other animals, where like once the population of males or whatever start dying off. I learned this in like high school biology, where like they're like a lot of these animals would imitate another gender,
Right.
and then yeah,
This
Yeah,
is exactly what the
it
priest
become-
class, the elite third genders in certain parts of India and in Turkey, and even in the Mediterranean became the priest class, right? And so the priest class, when they took over other priest classes, which weren't third genders, forced them to consider the third gender as part of the theology. So for instance, with the Christian Jesuit, you have the idea that you're the bride of Christ, right? Because you're married to God, but you cannot be the husband in that relationship. And there's a certain amount of hermeticism. And
That's why there's Holy Ghost. Holy Ghost is a hermaphrodite. You know?
Really?
It's like they don't want to say he's a woman. They don't want to admit it. You know, oh, that's not a woman.
yeah, that's true.
It's
So they
a
made it.
hermaphrodite.
rather gender neutral, I guess.
Dude,
Right.
this is a horrible statue. I'm really sorry. I had to show you that. Okay.
I think I'm gonna go to hell by saying all this stuff.
No, I
But-
mean, we're just like the thing is we're pretty open-minded. I'm down. I'm all right
I mean,
with anything.
it's the recognition of the divine feminine and the divine masculine as well. I mean, that's a common theme within all religions across the world.
Yeah. Well, you know,
I'm
the
not saying
Shekinah
I'm
and all
not
that stuff.
saying I'm angry about it. I'm just saying it is Baphomet. That's all I'm trying to do here, you know? Did you guys watch I Pet Goat? Do we want to do the deep dive? Do you want to talk about it, Thomas?
I love the iPad Goat too. Was there ever a one? Because I always saw it as iPad
That's
Goat
my
2,
question.
right?
What
But I
happened to
think
the
it was
number
just
one?
always this one. I don't think there was a first one.
I
So-
think the first one is the book that George Bush was reading. in
I
Florida.
remember this, dude. Like back
So
like, during the
Baphomet's got
Illuminati
a
days.
barcode on his head. He's behind a gate, so they're trying to free
Okay.
him. You know, Lucifer's held for 1,000 years, perhaps, and it's about to be his time to be released.
You know
This
what?
is
Pull
one
the
of the best
strings,
animations
pull
ever
the
made.
strings, right?
Because
Okay,
where like what was it even made for, right? Like it didn't come out with a music
Yeah.
video.
Well,
It didn't
well,
come
I
out
think
with like a
this is
marketing
about
campaign.
isn't this about the election, right? Because
Okay.
you've
Okay.
got
You know what?
the
Before we introduce, because it sounds like Gung Wu is new to this, so we should go back to 9/11 when George Bush was reading that book, right? What's the
right,
name
right.
of that book?
My Pet Goat.
Black
It's
and white
called
checkered floor.
My Pet Goat.
Pet
He was
Goat, which
reading it.
as you all remember is the most popular children's book of all time. I mean, of course, of all the books you would grab off the shelf, it would be the one we've all heard of, My Pet Goat.
And if you can find
It's
the
like-
video clip, basically the whole classroom was chanting. I mean, the teacher was telling the kids to say the what do you call it, the keywords in the book.
Oh
They
yeah,
say-
I remember
they
this.
say-
Yeah.
Yeah, this is steel, beam, must, plane must hit. You know, all these words that basically say plane must hit the building, and so word for word. You know, if you can play the video, I don't know, but
It was like a
that's
spelling bee or something or whatever.
No,
like,
he was visiting a classroom and he's gonna read the kids My Pet Goat. Because if you're the president of a Masonic country and you want to share your values, you start with Baphomet. So he shows up. Wait, I'm skipping ahead too nicely. All right.
No,
Look
but
at this
like,
beautiful.
I was, what
First off,
Eddie,
I want
bouncing
this
off what
car.
Eddie was saying, like the whole the keyword reading off, like that thing. I'm pretty sure it was for some kind of reading comprehension exercise, and like there were all the sequences of words were very coincidental to 9/11.
it's like phonics, you know. It's like
If Michael
some kind of
Moore tries to
phonics
give me a
lesson.
copyright strike on this video, I'm gonna be very upset.
I can hear something. Oh, 9:11 a.m. Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear that, eh? Oh, very good.
Very.
But yeah, the
Yeah.
iPad goat video, like, is like I remember seeing that back in the whole Illuminati days, the early 2000s and all. But like, it seemed very surface level for me to actually like give a shit about it.
I think it was ahead of its time, man. I think this is so deep.
I think there's some symbolism here, like for instance, the homunculus, like the snowstorm coming from the south, the owl.
They've got the whirling dervish,
it's pretty
like
subtle, but
implying
it's
that
good.
same ideas.
I mean, I understand the symbology behind the entire video and whatnot.
Wow, even man evolving from fish into God. I mean,
And what's the hangman?
Yeah, dude. Oh,
evolution.
The Bohemian Grove owl on the left.
The hangman is. Are you going to figure out its evolution before you lose? That's what it is. Hangman.
That kind of reminds of the Ron Paul's campaign slogan.
Sorry for interrupting constantly, but man, my mind is racing.
Go for it.
I mentioned this in the general research tab of the Discord, how like the connection with evolutionary theory and theosophy, how it has its origins in transhumanism and transcendentalism. This idea that like a species can become a higher species by elevating its consciousness, which was a commonly held belief around the 1800s when Charles Darwin came up with this theory. Not only yet, Charles Darwin wrote his book Origin of Species within Alice Bailey's manor.
Yeah,
Well,
I should probably grab my Bailey books because they're up there on the shelf. I read some of the magic. We should do a magic episode on Bailey, actually. Bailey's really important.
Have you seen Zardoz with Sean Connery? No, seriously, because if you look at it, basically the movie is all inspired by Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz, Zardoz, right? Wizard of Oz, right?
I feel like actually Zardoz is a decryption of the Wizard of Oz. It's all the stuff that Baum was saying without the fluff, you know.
Well, the movie basically is talking about the savages trying to evolve into the ether. They want to become gods, right? The whole
Doesn't
film
everyone
is
want to
basically
bang
about-
him? That's the whole plot, right? They all just want to bang Sean Connery.
He becomes the
Yeah,
wife.
because he's savage. He's still functional. He doesn't have
he's that
ED,
unvaxxed specimen, right?
Yeah, so
It's super sad that Sean Connery lost all of his memories and was wandering around on an island when he died. Couldn't remember who he was, you know. I wonder a lot about the elite, you know, if you don't succeed at your self-manifestation, do you lose yourself?
Are you talking about his last days? Is that what
Yeah, Sean Connery's last days, because as he got old, he got Alzheimer's. He forgot who he was, and he moved to this island that he owned this huge property on, and he was just like $20 water bottles island for rich British people, and he just wandered around until he died.
It's just like in that scene in Zardoz, where all the old people, they were like, they're quarantined in this. All these old people, they're
It was like
die,
freaking crazy, man. I don't know exactly what happened to him. Also, people talk all the time about Star Trek. They don't talk about the projection-based watch he has. He has a watch that projects a hologram in the room. It's way cooler than an iPad.
Yeah, it's crystal.
We're talking about the man who would be king here too, right? You guys seen that movie before?
Yeah, that's a very Masonic film, isn't it?
I mean, it's literally a Masonic film. That's the whole premise of it. Yeah.
So which king is he about? It's about
the man who he has
Kipling's
this
book, right?
this like Masonic tattoo or like a pendant or something.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah,
and they find themselves lost in the middle of like some civilization that hasn't seen people in a while. And he takes off, and we see this pendant, and they're like, oh, the last time that we saw someone come through here that had that symbol, they were basically like the king. So they just assume that he's the returning king, and they make him king of this little tribe just because he had a Masonic symbol on him.
Nice. Well, guys, make sure you bring your Masonic symbols when you travel. I think there's a
Project Bluebeam moment.
Yeah, not bad.
I just swim upon this deserted island. And
so the lotus grows out of the apple, right? So you got the fruit of knowledge. There's a worm that comes out of the apple, and then the lotus comes out of the worm. And he's starting to see as things are starting to happen. Then the freeze comes. The great freeze arrives. And it's the beginning of the cold winter. Meanwhile, there's fire and ice, and the towers are collapsing.
Yep.
The melting ice, the Al Gore.
What year was this made? What was it?
2012. So right around the end of the world. Or of history.
And he's got the little CIA patch on his shirt. I love everything about this whole video.
I think they did a good job. And also this part here.
So
are they producing the homunculus?
So the filmmaker never came out to do any kind of interview, huh?
I think so.
So I was under the impression this was just an art project. It was never really released on an official capacity. It was just uploaded on YouTube, and suddenly the whole Illuminati crowd, kind of like the researchers, kind of hopped on, and it became a very viral thing.
What's beautiful is
the production quality is amazing.
Like AI just feed in all kinds of Illuminati symbolism, and it'll pop up like this in the future.
But the amount of effort it would have taken to make this 7-minute video that looks this good, like there was a budget involved, or at least a lot of people that knew what they were doing spent a lot of time on this. So it would have been weird to just drop it on YouTube and not be to like market something or make some money off the other end of it.
Right, and the fact that Jesus is, the self-ascended Jesus that's crossing the river Styx, kind of like in the Gospel of Nicodemus, in order to rescue people, and he's going into like the land of Hecate and of death of Hathor. Who's he rescuing? Is that Hecate?
Well, this is supposed to be that woman in The Shining, isn't that right? And look at it, she was menstruating. She's like, if you go back to that, look at it. She's like the 70-year-old woman who's menstruating. Look at it,
dude. Hecate. Let's go here really quickly. So, the goddess, an ancient religion. Too small. Often shown holding a pair of torches, keys, snakes, accompanied by dogs. Later periods of triple-bodied. She's variously associated with crossroads, entranceways, night, light, magic, witchcraft, the moon. Her known herbs and poisonous plants, graves, ghosts, necromancy, and sorcery. Her earliest appearance in literature of Hesiod's theogony in the 8th century. A goddess of great honor with domains in sky, earth, and sea. I got the vibe of Hecate, because you've got this ancient and trapped goddess from the period of femininity. And the release by Christ, which is very Da Vinci Code, the masculine, the feminine.
And what is
the
that
rebirth?
Kid?
Oh, and the Gurdjieff whirling dervish, right? That's the crazy.
That's Turkey earthquake.
I mean, I think the more I watch this, the more likely we're gonna find that this is about something. I do want to know who made it more now.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how over the years things started to unveil in this video. Little bit.
No names. Soundtrack performed.
Somebody in the chat said it premiered on Alex Jones' show.
Oh, really?
Well, that's what it said. The video.
Oh, Alex Jones was the only one to interview the supposed creator behind the pick. Okay, thank you, Paul. I will find that interview. I didn't even know he did that. That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's taken off of YouTube already.
God, yeah.
I mean, I have to guess they've worked on something that we've probably seen before in TV or movies, because that's not just like a hobby project.
Yeah, that's like sometimes like South Park, they put out a free original episode, and that's how they got produced. It's a way that you put some stuff out there for people to see. Well, there's the
another
drone.
jobless sinkhead.
There's the drone chaos in Russia. That's pretty messed up. Afghanistan, Wuhan. I don't know. There's a bunch of other stuff. What about the mass drone attacks? So now we're moving on to China and Taiwan drones, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, no, it's just funny because Alex Jones, his last video he put out, his wife's Facebook page put it out that they're trying to sell his cat to pay off his debt. I'm like, a $2,000 cat to pay off his $1 trillion.
Oh, my God.
Debt. I'm like,
Jesus.
But the whole video is like, this is my child.
Leave Alex alone.
Child.
People do love cats. It's kind of weird. But also to pay to sell a cat is also weird.
Check out this video. This is freaky as hell. This
some
is
crazy voodoo.
It's a two-headed eagle, right? The Masonic two-headed eagle, the Byzantine.
the Byzantine eagle.
Yeah, and so here comes the Ukraine hatchet,
Libra.
whatever you call it, and then with a blind. Why is you blindfolded anyway?
Like Libra, like the Libra, like the justice, blind justice.
So here she goes.
Oh my God! And she has to cut the head off of the other eagle because of the. Oh man!
Look at
dividing the empire. So are they saying
she's peeking through that freaking blindfold?
Is she saying? Are they saying that they're pro EU and they want to get rid of both heads, or are they saying they're anti?
Well, it's the Russian, the coat of arms as well. Russian has been using it since the 14th century.
Yeah, but the double head significance. Yeah, she's going for both heads. Okay,
You can't just do one.
No, you could if she left one head on. Then the
dog is bleeding.
I feel like if you had to pick, though, you'd want the bird with the two heads and not the bird with the no heads.
Oh my God! And you want to cut off the right head first because the right head is Russian and the west head is left head. I don't know if they got the symbolism completely.
Well, each head has a name. Actually, I forgot the names, but look at it.
They wanted 3 heads,
voodoo, man.
The Austro-Hungarian Empire tried to join with the Slavonian Empire, and then they were going to become the 3rd head, and they were going to create a 3-headed bird, and that didn't happen because of Franz Ferdinand.
Wait, what's the what's the other country? Moldova. Now they're on the news. They're saying that they're afraid they're next. They're going to be invaded next. So maybe that's the 3rd head. I don't know.
Oh, this is old, but this is interesting. I remember when this happened, and I wanted to bring this up.
Blood sacrifice.
Do you guys have you seen how many times somebody would be in the office with the queen, and then they'd be safe, and then they'd be arrested afterward? Like someone just snuck into the room and met with the queen, and then there's somebody trying to escape naked out of the castle. Back in 2015, a video of a young man / teen climbing out of a window of Buckingham Palace and fell several feet, originally claimed to be someone escaping blood sacrifice, was deemed a hoax for the E! show royals. However, E! never addressed further, and the media always all buried the news.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody was answering this and saying that he saw the episode. I mean, did the episode explain anything about who this guy is? It's a full half-hour show. So I couldn't find it. I mean, the news media said nothing about it. I mean, what is the context in the story?
Oh, that was just a snack for Prince Andrew, I assume.
Oh yeah, this is what I show people to get a comprehensive review on the entire how everything unfolds. The Cult of Ball mapping project by David Louis Monroe pretty much has everything that you need to know, like how everything ties in together. The whole Masonic.
Who's the person you said? What's the name of who produced this?
David Louis Monroe is the guy that made this. And, he has a website called deepstatemappingproject.com. And then he pretty much did all this comprehensive work on getting a consistent timeline and how every event ties with each other to eventually lead to how this bloodline and families leads to the elite today.
Man,
yeah, I saw this a little while ago. But I'm trying to see, because if you look at the Sephiroth, there's some extra ones here, right? Let me see.
I mean, this is not the exact Sephiroth, but he's just being kind of facetious and using the Sephiroth because the people that worship Baal are very tied with the Kabbalah and whatnot.
So this gives a lot of prominence to Illuminati here too.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder about that as well. What do you think, Thomas? I mean, isn't the Illuminati name kind of I mean, it's the name as an idea is more correct than the group itself in this.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, Illuminati only got big because they infiltrated the Masons and had to work under the auspices of the Jesuits, like in secret. So if anything, it would have been like the Jesuits and the Masons almost not in tandem, but as like these equal superpowers, and then the Illuminati would have been this little.
This kind of shows that in an interesting way. I don't know, because Vatican confuses me, but if I focus on Switzerland to the Illuminati, and you have to go from the Livonian Empire, let's see there, Livonian.
So
Empire,
Weishaupt was a Jesuit priest, wasn't he? What was his position?
Well, no, he operated
Weishaupt
within
was
the
a
Jesuit
jewelry
society.
He was a jewelry salesman and an occultist, you know.
And he was almost an atheist. I mean, he was very much like an Enlightenment sort of mentality. So working under the Jesuits, he kind of grew in disdain, and he wanted to work against them, but how to work against them within their own society. And that's where he started at the Ingolstadt, which was essentially a Jesuit school. But then he found, alliances and like-minded people that were all willing to meet after hours, essentially, and actually use the college as like the original breeding ground.
Dang it, how too fast.
And he was absolutely a con man, like to the highest degree. He was the OG con man for sure.
But if you look at the
Austrian, I'm trying to remember his origin. Either he's I'm trying to trace everything back to.
He's Bavarian, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Bavaria was where it started.
Born in
the Bavarian Illuminati was the start. Then eventually, after King George shut it down in 1776, they migrated to the U.S. because the U.S. was deemed by 16th century Christian scholars as the promised land by Moses. So
But the Freemasons and the Jesuits come after the Livonians, and so the Swiss are the correct link there, actually, because if you look at the 1291 Terra Mariana Brotherhood of Livonian Sword, the Livonian Brothers of the Sword, they created a group that took over basically any parts of Germany, France today that are run by these elite families that are connected to the Swiss. Then they took over Switzerland as well. So the Vatican banking system is controlled by these elites. Freemasonry was heavily controlled by these elites. In Russia, the entire Freemason lodge was controlled by the Livonians, and they took over Catherine the Great's family by raising Peter the Great completely. They were completely raised by Livonian Freemasons. And on the other hand, you had a rule that if you were in one, you couldn't be in the other, right? You'd be excommunicated from the Catholic Church if you were a Freemason. So this kind of made sure that they had both sides. They had one door and they had the other door, both roads, both lanes.
Well, now we have a Jesuit Pope,
kind
of the Vatican, so that's is thoroughly infiltrated.
Yeah, the Catholic Church was infiltrated with Constantine, I believe. Where he said he would convert to Christianity, but really he was just a hermetic, and then eventually hired Origen, Origen, to completely come up with these falsified testimonials and whatnot.
How's this deep state mapping work you sent me?
That's the website where you can find the Sephiroth, whatever map that I just showed you.
Oh, cool.
But he got a bunch of other stuff. This is ran by a guy named David Luis Monroe. I don't know too much about it. I just came across it on Twitter at one point. But pretty much
his work looks similar. Just by looking at some of those pages. Have you guys heard of this one? Other guy, his website is called Illuminati Matrix. Have you heard of that one? It's a WordPress website. Well, I don't know if it's .com, but
yeah, WordPress.
Yeah, but so he's an illustrator, commercial. Oh,
nothing found. I think he removed.
What the hell?
They do this a lot. All the cool pages, they just delete their own pages, or
just as I open up. Oh, God.
Yeah, that's why you gotta archive everything, man.
Yeah, a lot of great sites disappeared. I was looking for there's another one called
the dead internet theory.
Yeah, keep hey, Gunwoo and anybody, Thomas too. If you guys have anything you want to share, bring it up. I'm gonna keep going through Synchronous's page here. There's a couple.
It depends on what we're talking about exactly.
Oh, this is the
topic here.
This is
interesting. This one's interesting to me also. Yeah, the Fleming books being changed is interesting because everyone's worried about it being changed for woke reasons, and I'm worried that they're changing classified public information. They put out privileged information through propaganda books about charming military agents and spies from the British
Well, you know,
government and MI6, and they're going
Ian
to now
Fleming,
hide that from us.
Yeah, they are. What's the other Roald Dahl, right? He's also MI6 too.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the purpose of this?
Christopher Lee as well.
This is like Tavistock is trying to have a second phase. They're trying to, I don't know, it's mutating. I mean,
I actually found a thing on Roald Dahl's connection to MI12, and so I hadn't known much about MI12, but MI12 was
the thing.
MI12 is the media connected to MI6, and so they actually do a lot of propaganda, and they have people whose full agent job is to live your whole life as a movie critic. Or
that book club that Roald Dahl, J.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, what they're all involved in was like some layer of like esoteric. I'm not sure how to word this, but like they were like definitely some level of high society, and like all the books they produce touch on the theories of Tartaria and all this other stuff, but it's muddied with symbolism and like under the guise that it's a fantasy fiction book.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if anything's
this before.
I don't know if anything's a fiction book at all anymore from Roald Dahl. I mean, so basically, the other thing is Roald Dahl is kind of evil, so it's hard when we talk about. Well, I mean, his books are kind of weird. He's got like witches that make Crowley cakes out of little boys, and they feed them to kids that make them into rats and mice.
True.
And he's, the Willy Wonka's putting children in the chocolate. It seems like it's kind of in the background there. If they're evil, it's good and bad.
To be honest, man, and I think there's something to this, but almost every major children's book that's been featured as
any good
major
one.
motion pictures or anything, like name anyone, throw a rock, and the writer was horrible to children in like many different and horrible ways, man. I mean, Sword in the well, I don't know about
Dr. Seuss was just racist. That was it.
Start throwing shade.
Theodore Gazelle was kind of a weird guy. He didn't give his family a bunch of money. I don't know, there's a whole bunch of stuff. It's a personal life. He can do what he wants. But I like that they made the University of California, San Diego Library of Dr. Seuss an upside down pyramid that literally goes down into the ground at a point there, and there's
Louvre, right?
This is in San Diego. This is the University of California, San Diego. So, I mean, Dr. Seuss Museum, a / library, pretty weird.
A funnel
to hell.
A funnel to hell, yeah. Well, actually, it's kind of shaped like the nine levels of hell. You seen that the illustration? Look it up. Look it up.
Dante's Inferno.
Like, yeah. There's a whole map. They drew the whole map of 9 levels of hell. It just looks like a funnel.
Oh wow! It really does look exactly like that. That's a trip.
Yeah. I think that's what the library was.
I met a girl in the horrific
ultimate
section of the
knowledge,
library, right above the violence. She came out of the violence. She left in wrathful.
Go talk to the librarian in the basement.
The Fall of the Rebels. Okay.
This whole Dante's Hell model very much looks like the Vedic universe model, just upside down.
As above, so below.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think
Vedic is not upside down? Is it? I mean, you're talking about the Vimana, the UFO?
No, not the Vimana. The Vedic universe model, like their levels of dimensions of like what exists. Yeah, pretty much what people call the firmament, all this other stuff.
Man, if only it would load. There you go.
I made another post. It's a couple of days ago, but it's about because there was an article talking about Waco, Texas, right? What's his name? Davidian.
Koresh, David
Koresh.
Koresh.
Koresh's influence. If you keep scrolling, maybe I'll look for it for you. But you keep scrolling. Basically, he's influenced by this guy, Koreshian, right? There was a
Koresh T. They believe the world's a hollow Earth, but we're in it.
Have you been talking about it on your shows?
So when I did the Vice special, we had to talk about Hollow Earth, and he believes he believed a bunch of people lived in Florida where the Scientology took over. Like the Scientologists own almost all that area of Florida now, and it was always considered to be like a very magical place. And Ponce de Leon went through there, and he said we're living inside of the Hollow Earth, and if you look up, you're looking down.
Here we go. Here he is.
Yeah.
Speaking of movies in Hollow Earth too, but the Jungle Book writer was a huge proponent of Hollow Earth and wrote extensively about it.
I like the idea that we're inside of the Hollow Earth. Wait, Roald Dahl was into Hollow Earth, or who?
Well, Jungle Book is Roald Dahl, right? Yeah,
no, that's Kipling.
No,
Jungle Book is Kipling.
Oh man, it wasn't Roald Dahl. No, Jungle Book was Kinsing or
Is it not
Kipling,
Kipling?
Rudyard Kipling.
Dude,
He was also a very staunch imperialist.
Yeah.
God, all these people, they probably all belong to the what was that?
The Adventure Club or the Super Adventure Explorers
Kipling
Club,
was I don't know if he's born in India or raised in India.
He was kind of raised in India and was born.
No, he was born in Bombay. Yeah, so British. Imagine you're Canadian and you live in a country. That's what it was like at that point. You lived in England's version of Britain, and he believed in the staunch hypocrisy of the elite, but also was pretty impressed with little boys. He had that story about, is it Kim, about the little boy who paints his face brown in order to pretend to be Indian?
Before I forget, go back to Kipling. Wasn't he featured in The Man Who Would Be King? He was actually one of the characters in the film, right? The Man Who Would Be King. He was on the train. His actual character was on the
there's
train.
a sync, bro. There's a major sync.
Oh, yeah. Go look it up. Look up on YouTube. Rudyard Kipling in A Man Who Would Be King.
Oh, that was his book. He's the one that wrote that book. That's great. I didn't even know that.
There you go. That's why he would be in the thing. All right, that makes sense.
What a sync, bro. That's a crazy sync.
Kipling did some really cool things. If you guys ever watch Quantum Leap, Scott Bakula's buddy character, Al, who's played by Dean Stockwell Kim. When Dean Stockwell was a kid, his first movie is playing Rudyard Kipling's Kim.
Oh wow, that's so nuts, man!
And it's almost impossible to make a movie like this today because it's about blackface.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
this
like
is so crazy.
When did he die?
Really
he died like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, he just died like 2 years ago. And it's an amazing movie. It's actually as good as the book in a lot of ways. I loved Kipling as a kid. But what's interesting is he meets an Indian guy. He lives with the Indian guy for a while. The Indian guy finds out he's actually British, and then he just immediately drops the boy off at some British people because, of course, they're different and they can't interact with each other. So Kipling talked a lot about classism in Britain and British India at the time. And I think definitely always important to read Kipling's books. I wonder if they're going to say that, though, the next thing is Kipling's to not woke enough. And this is the thing. All of the things that people are talking about are not that important to me because it'd be like if they said, we're going to change all the lines to the Beatles. Okay, whatever. There's a lot of other bands out there I care more about than the main. It's like Star Wars or the Beatles aren't. It's just one big thing. There's lots of little things. What if they change Kipling? What if they change all the rest of the books? And these are the ones I'm most worried they're going to change. Things that people forget about.
Already, though, if you watch the Jungle Book from Disney, right? When Disney was producing the Jungle Book, he went around to all the animators. He went to the Sherman Brothers, who are the ones that wrote almost all of the soundtracks for the classic Disney movies. And he would ask them, have you ever seen or read the original Jungle Book movie or the book? And if they said no, he'd be like, great, don't, because we're making something that's not that, which is him almost saying out loud, like, we're occulting the original, symbolism behind the Jungle Book because it was steeped in occultism. It was steeped in like very dark themes, and they kind of inverted it and turned into this happy-go-lucky thing about. And I want to just go on like, it basically, you're going to own nothing and be happy, right? That's Baloo's whole song.
It's brilliant because what they do with it is they say, okay, we're going to sell something we know we can sell. This book has been proven to sell. We're going to take the title and then we're going to make what we want to make with it. And people do that now all the time, and they hate when they do it and they get upset at them at the same time. But it's brilliant because they own their content and they've tricked people into seeing it. It's like, oh yeah, I heard about the Jungle Book.
Well, Disney is losing all the copyrights by 2025. They're going
not all.
They're going to lose rights to Mickey Mouse, and
they're going to lose rights to pre-Fantasia Mickey Mouse. So the pupils will still be Disney's, and I think that's interesting. We've known 25 years of Disney Mouse. Speaking
of Disney, one of the animators, the key animators of Maleficent, Sleeping Beauty, he just died 2 days yesterday.
Oh, really?
Bernie Mattinson.
Oh no,
he was working right under Mark Davis. Actually, I saw Mark Davis just before he died. He came to my school, animation school. And Mark Davis was the key animator, and then Bernie Madison was his right-hand man. So
yeah, it's crazy because these guys, I mean, I've done some interviews with Tad Stone, and I talked to you, how I feel about animation, Don Bluth, and this whole period. Thomas, God, this is just, when we lose an animator, we're losing a master of something, and we're losing that skill a lot of the time. The skill goes.
Yeah,
with
you're
the
losing
animator.
like a Hiram Abiff right here, like the master mason of the temple, essentially.
It's pretty sad.
Well, all
But
the 9 old
considering it's
men of
90.
Disney, they're basically all they're all the they're the temple builders of Disney. You know, Disney would be nobody without those guys.
Although you mentioned Don Bluth too, and Don Bluth and the 9 old men didn't exactly get along well. In
Not at
fact,
all,
it was what was
No.
it? Not Secret of Nim, but there was a movie in particular that they worked
Black
on.
Cauldron. Black
Cauldron. That was
That's where
like
you
the
walked out,
breaking
right?
point. And he took all of the junior animators with him. So it was like, hey, 9 old men, like now you're truly just 9 old men all by yourselves kind of deal.
Yeah. And that was when Disney was going bankrupt. That was the time when Disney was close to getting
They almost
bankrupt.
dropped the name. Yeah, Eisner was thinking about calling it West Coast Studios. They were going to change Disney's name to
What a
West Coast
bastard.
Studios. I know, but I mean, Black Cauldron's also pretty nuts because this is the story. We actually brought up Chronicles of Prydain before, which is based on. In the Chronicles of Prydain, it is just super gnarly. I'm surprised that of any book, Disney would have picked the one that was as controversial as the Prydain Chronicles. You've got a kid who finds a magic finger. This wizard puts all his magic into a finger and cuts it off and puts it in a drawer. So he sews it onto his hands, his 6 fingers. And you've got the pig who's the wishing pig, and you have to use it to do these occult rituals to see into things. But if you look into it, they can look back into you. And to start the magic of having skeleton soldiers, you have to sacrifice someone in the Black Cauldron so that all the dead bodies will rise up. And the
This
only way to
just
turn
sounds
it
like
off
Lord of
is-
the Rings.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But, Lord of the Rings is also a ripoff of the
Yeah.
Cotton Codex. And I don't mean that in a bad way. When you think about the fact that, is it this right? No, not the Cotton Genesis was included in the Cotton Codex. There you go, Cotton Library. Some of these books were not read for centuries until they got to J.R.R. Tolkien, and Tolkien actually translated them, learned, and this is why we understand as much as we do about some kinds of languages and about Beowulf particularly. So, and Sir Gawain the Green Knight, which sounds like a comic book. This is how long we've been redoing things. But these stories were kind of forgotten, and we don't realize how many people stopped talking about dragons until J.R.R. Tolkien brought them back up. It's like, oh, look, there's all these books about people fighting these super giant lizards. And so that became more dramatic. But, I don't know. I don't want to say J.R.R. Tolkien stole anything because he just adapted it, but it is literally just an adaptation, right? Like Lord of the Rings is an adaptation of all these things.
Yeah. Nobody really comes up with a story that's original.
That's true. Man versus man, man versus the world, man versus himself. That could be. What about these experiments on citizens, the chemical exposures and everything? This is still going
people
on.
are starting to show symptoms. Like I don't know, some crazy blackened finger stuff. But it's starting to spread, right? I think all that fume and all the water is drifting to Indiana now, so people are starting to catch on over there.
I had Vigil on, and we talked a bit about Palestine versus Israel and Jerusalem, and the fact that this place is called that. And do you have any thoughts on the weird synchronicities of this event?
I made that silly little post about reminds me of the Jericho, the ABC series Jericho nuclear detonation of the small towns. And
wow, that's a good point.
So it's all biblical names, and I don't know what's the next town. Well, any town in Indiana.
For the people that do you guys watch S2 Underground on YouTube?
No.
Yes.
It's a very good channel to follow up on like all these events that have been happening on infrastructure attacks. Like he pretty much is like the go-to guy if you want to look on a.
But
great.
if you look at February, it's been a series of explosions. Today there's another explosion in Florida. Another train carrying like 3,000 tons of propane.
Yeah, it was a total of 7 derailments and like 3 like
more than
warehouse
that. More
attacks.
than that.
But yeah, more than that. But like this has been a continuous thing since last year. All those food processing plants catching on fire out of nowhere, and the electrical grid being under attack as well.
Could there be?
He's like, don't you believe in the weather change, climate change?
All right, like I say, it's a stupid and hypothetical and not necessary to answer question at all. Actually, just like, do you think our infrastructure has gotten so bad that this could just be happening at this point? Like it's almost.
Oh no, it's all part of the IEF agenda. It's all.
But I don't mean that to be mutually exclusive concepts. I think it's possible that also infrastructure was set up with earmarks by congressmen and with the Teamsters and unions in order that they start guaranteeing that if they're not fixed every few years, they break down after a certain point, like light bulbs. And this is where we're at now.
This is important. If you go back to my synchronous, it was a video that came out yesterday. It was a news clip talking about now that we have the disaster situation in Ohio is they named what's the capital of Ohio? What is it? They basically if you keep scrolling down, not this video, but this is another one. Maybe see a link. Basically, they're saying that Ohio is going to be the first state. Oh, yeah, that one. No, you just passed it. Yeah, that one. Yeah, this one. So basically, it's saying that Ohio is going to be the first state to sponsor the 15-minute city.
What's a 15-minute city? You can get anything in 15 minutes?
Yeah, get anywhere within the 15 minutes.
And the dark side of that is you're not allowed to leave your 15 minutes city segment unless
pretty soon
you've got some kind of reason to leave outside of it.
Thank you.
Because you've got everything you need, guys.
This is the thing about people who are like, we gotta build walls. I'm like, you don't understand, dude. That's not a wall for them. It's a wall for you.
And if you guys been watching, what's that the HBO show that's right now, The Last of Us, right? The Last of Us basically is promoting that construct that all the cities are walled up, and everybody, basically every single town is a communist commune.
Star Trek Future 2027.
Shoot you.
I have to mention Epcot too, man. This is like the OG, like what Walt Disney's original vision for Epcot would have been, was a 15-minute city.
Star Trek, is it Voyager San Francisco, or is it? I think it is. They go to San Francisco in the future, and it's our future, but it's their past. And they find that there's walls. This is not the right Star Trek. It's Voyager. Where is it? Voyager, San Francisco. Doesn't matter. Basically, that all the cities are walled up, and nobody can get out or in unless they're like super elite. And this is the beginning of because if you remember Star Trek, it's like 30-40 years after 2030s that society gets to 2070s, they have the power or something. Up till then, there's like wars, the cops are on drugs that are in their jackets so they can just inject themselves with drugs all the time. The whole society is collapsing, and they wall in all the cities to keep everybody safe. So like, all right, well, if San Francisco goes, at least Oakland doesn't, etc.
Well, all for the sake of environmentalism.
So I messaged you this like on your DMs, Andreas, about the whole like mandatory digital identification.
Hold on, I'll pull it up. 1 second. This one.
Well,
East Palestine weeks.
Cool.
Oh, this is different. Where'd you send it?
This is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Right.
But like, so the mandatory digital identification has been implemented in Korea years before.
Right.
But like everything that happens in East Asia is a testing ground that eventually gets moved on to the Western world.
Totally.
So they're starting this with the whole this is all now starting with medical identification.
Yeah, I mean the whole COVID
and this was weeks before the whole
thing.
like Ohio Palestine situation.
Yeah, the vaccination card, the vaccination ID is the same concept. Every single crisis does not go to waste. Every single crisis is going
order
to be
out of chaos, right? Anytime you find chaos, you use it to make order, and if you can make chaos, you can make more order. So,
but this all ties back into the 2006 when RFIDs were first implemented. But because people are denying the chip, they now want to make wristbands.
Well, it's going to get smaller and smaller. Trust me, it's going to be in your. Well, look at Elon Musk. The whole Neuralink thing is. I mean, I've been watching this TV show. Have you guys been watching the Severance on Apple TV?
No.
That's the first episode. It's you gotta get a chip in your brain. There's like drilling this poor woman's head.
Oh, right, this one.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, you don't be selling it like that. It's like they, no matter what, they're gonna have
predictive programming, all of it.
God, I'm gonna have to spend more time looking into the Apple stuff because I know they've got a lot of weird shows about like communists landing on the moon and everything.
Have you guys ever heard of the chip program? We were talking about like RFID and tracking. There's something called the chip program, which is the Masonic Child ID identification program.
It's been going on for years. I mean, let's look at the pictures. Every single state's got their own pamphlets.
But this one is like. This one's OG style.
Yeah, I remember
you would bring your kids to a Masonic temple, and they fill out a little pamphlet and they take a picture, and they like get a whole bunch of information about them and put it into this national database, so that if the kid ever goes up missing, then the Masons have the information.
Ashton Kutcher is a Freemason, right? So
the big thing that people are not mentioning these days is the Bill Gates patent 2006-0606, pretty much patent 666, which is the using cryptocurrency. I already have the link in the private chat.
When are they going to start actually putting the blood into? Not mentioning inserting microchips. It's nano.
No, pull up the Pro IP patent.
Yeah.
Have it in the private.
Yeah, it's a nanobots, not microchips. Micro is different than nano, America.
Well, it's like some kind of chip.
There's no microchips.
Chip patent where like they somehow fund cryptocurrency using body activity
man,
data.
It doesn't want to let me do it. I'll just do Microsoft 2020.
It reminds me a little bit too.
2006.
The theory where, like, if you looked up your social security number, there was like a publicly traded stock that you could take out.
Here's here's the PDF of the actual patent. There it is, right there. So you've got World Intellectual, the WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization International Bureau. Nice. So
long before cryptocurrency was even a thing, they had this patent in 2006 during the whole implementation of RFID.
Technically, there was Beans currency. You guys remember Beans, or am I dating myself right now? E-money. I don't know if I can even find it. Beans with a Z, maybe? Was it Z? Hold on. So long ago, when you were just a wee bean in my eye, there was a cryptocurrency called Beans. And I remember in 1998, Whoopi Goldberg did commercials for this. Larry Ellison.
Oh, this sounds very familiar.
And you can look into Beans. All these companies were like, oh, we'll make it so that if you buy something, you get some beans back. It'll be these online tokens, and then you'll be able to use those to buy
I've heard about this. Yeah,
it was huge. It was like the biggest thing amongst the people at the right age. It was Sweden, France, United States, Germany, Italy, Japan, Singapore, Australia, China. At its peak, there were 15 countries translating of Beans website into several languages, and then after the dot-com bubble, everyone was like, no one's going to need cryptocurrency. There's no money in the internet, and that was the end of Beans.
It went defunct in 2001.
Yes.
Which month? Which month did it go?
Good question. I'm pretty sure it was August or September, and it was right before there was a plan for the debt jubilee.
The office was in WTC 7, wasn't it? That's where the office
Beans
burned the ground, man.
Jubilee 2000 was this. No, that's not right. It's the Catholic one. There was this idea that on September 11th, they said, 2001, when we finally got there, they were going to have a debt jubilee. And
August 26th is when Beans went defunct.
August 26th. All right.
Yeah. That is too close to comfort, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I remember because I was
I
was in Austria. I was in Austria at the time, and I was trying to use them to buy a Philips MP3 CD. No, I was trying to buy a Nomad jukebox, like the music player before iPods came out, and I had to get the Philips MP3 CD player, which I ended up being grateful for because it had better battery life. But the point is the same. It was all because Beans went away, and so the people who made Beans are the same people that are with London headquarters, Carlson Marketing Group. People with money have made their way back into cryptocurrency. It's nothing new, right? So 2006, they're thinking, well,
Beans turned into gas. Turned into gas. It went kaput.
Bean gas. All right, I'll take it. The gassing fees. I see this is a good pun. There's a fun there. All right. Communication network connects to the cryptocurrency system. There's a sensor and then the user device. The sensor actually measures bio information from the user, and it can tell if they're in the right place, going to the right events, getting up at the right hours. Yeah. And as time goes on, it starts to read your biofeedback and use it to measure whether you're doing the right thing, and then if they do, they reward you with cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's the social credit system on crack, essentially.
Right, but this is first, as you said.
Okay.
This is
true.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to go back to this. Remember Biden, the confirmation hearing of Justice Roberts. Hold on, let's see if we can look up that. Okay, here I'm gonna send it to you. Hold on a second, because I don't think I put it in Twitter.
Supreme Court justice appears skeptical about Biden's student debt relief plan. Is this what you're talking about, or no?
No. Here, hold on. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay.
Where is it? Give you the link, and then here we go. Okay, I dropped it. Okay, yeah, there's a link there. Look it up.
Pulling it open.
So I've been tracking this since Obama got in office because, this is when Biden was still senator. and he was questioning Chief Roberts. He's one of the nine justices, right? So the confirmation hearing, towards the end of it, it says that you will be responsible for passing the laws on the medical identification registry. You can listen to the whole speech. Is on C-SPAN. I got a link on the bottom. You can
So
watch the whole
this is
video.
where the whole My ID is leading up to. My
This
God.
is the very beginning. This was back in, what year was this? This was before Obama was
2017
in
or
president.
something. Oh no,
2005.
No,
It's
Wow.
September 12th, 2005, at the Roberts confirmation hearing. So basically saying, he said, Mr. Roberts, you're going to be responsible for making sure, because it's an Obama bill, it's an Obamacare. It's all embedded. Obamacare is what, 2,000 pages, and in the page 1001, it has the very first edition, mind you, because if you look at Obamacare, you won't see it now, but the very first edition, the very first pass, they mentioned the medical device registry radio frequency transponder. See, that's the word for word. It's a radio, it's RFID. So they're basically saying, we're going to track everybody through medical means.
But we don't even need this, right? Because you've got like gate tracking, heat signature tracking, the cell phone in your pocket, to the point where like even people have the little Fitbits, right? So in addition to counting your steps, it's also counting and analyzing your gait, and your gait
that's
is
all
just as
true,
much
but
of
it's
a
all
fingerprint as anything.
compartmentalized. You underestimate government incompetence here.
But it's not government. This is a lot of time companies and corporations
This
and
is bankers. The bankers
Yeah.
want to track.
True.
And I don't really
That's-
believe in government incompetence anyways. I think that eventually all they have to do is just capture the data, and then they can feed it to an AI at some point that'll be more competent than they are. And then you don't
Very
have to be
true.
competent at that point.
Right. I mean, it is interesting though that how little they care about certain, like, legality is so much less cared about than banking and economy. Like the banking system, the IRS, these kinds of things, they're a little bit less haphazard than your local police or something, which has to kind of allow for certain people to commit crimes for all kinds of reasons. Part of the society's run on crimes. Half of the businessmen are on drugs, so they have to allow their drug dealers to exist. And B, there are a lot of licensed criminals for whatever reason. If you're in a sanctuary city and you've got certain kinds of organized crime involved with those drugs, maybe they're also involved with other kinds of crimes. So police often have to let crimes just go on so that other things can happen.
You know who would be the most against this ID chipping and payment system? The drug dealers, the cartels. They want cash. They don't want your digital social credit. This was El Chapo from Mexico. Your social units didn't come through. I'm going broke here. How the hell do these cartels survive?
I mean,
I don't know. I think a
direct-
lot of the time the Panama Papers showed us that the cartels have the same bankers that everybody else does, and so they're able to buy dock house or islands, and they trade properties, corporate properties. You might end up with a receipt that says you're the owner of 98% of the shares for some major company that no one's ever heard of. It's worth millions of dollars, and there's two people's names on the board, but they only own 1% of the company, right? And it just says, all right, whoever owns the 98% shares can show up at any time, and they'll have majority. And those shares are just a piece of paper in a briefcase, and that's what's being traded.
It's all Blackstone. We know Blackstone owns everything.
Another sync here too, because you brought up beans, and I remember there was another one called Flues, which was around the same. And I think actually it was Flues that had Whoopi Goldberg and not Beans. But
Oh, really?
Flues, it turned out that like a majority of their market volume was actually being handled by like Russian mafia. So the IRS notified them and shut them down. But I looked it up. They also shut down on the exact same date as Beans, even though technically it wasn't the same company. August 26th, 2001. What are the chances that two unrelated virtual currency companies both go defunct on the exact same date?
August 26th.
You know what? This whole Ukraine war too. Now I have no doubt it's like a game being played between U.S. and Russia. I mean, there's no doubt. They make it look like we're fighting each other.
I mean,
The
we know about
defeat of the
the,
Byzantine army by the
biggest
Turks in
money-
1071.
Oh man, that which gives the chick chopping off the Byzantine heads of that eagle all the more volume, right?
Oh man.
Oh
yeah,
my
we know
God.
from the Almeida research and the FTX crash that like the whole like Ukrainian war situation is a cryptocurrency money laundering front to actually inflate the price of Bitcoin.
Well, whatever happened to that case, man? That
I
guy's
don't
still
know.
running
Sam
around.
Bankman-Fried works for the whole WEF guys, so he's probably gonna get scot-free. But apparently he's going to jail. But who knows?
I think he's going to enjoy some serious Caribbean vacation somewhere.
UBS created their own crypto investment system. All these banking systems have their own coins now, and so a big part of it is like to have assets.
Swiss
You
bank.
have, yeah, exactly.
Where is sound money? Where are the gold bullions? That's why I want to know. That China doesn't own. I don't even think China has any gold bullions anymore. It's gone. Where the aliens took it. You remember that time they said the whole world was in debt? Remember that article? It was, I think it's Wall Street Journal. The whole world
everyone
was
but
in
China.
debt.
Everyone but
the
China.
whole world is in debt. But who has our money? The whole world. Who is the debtor of the world? It must be another planet.
They're all in debt by the IMF.
A reptilian.
Gold's about to drop. The biggest price drop. I think it's fallen 6% this year or last year, and is expected to drop even further down to 1,700. I remember it was 24 and it's down to 17 again. I think I remember it was like 16, but that was years ago. So it's interesting.
I still plan to buy some gold.
Yeah, but to answer your question, Eddie, all the people that owe money, or all of these countries that owe money, are the IMF. They owe money to the IMF, the Committee of 300 and whatnot. They're pretty much the ones that like BlackRock, for example. They're the ones.
Now, walk me through the Committee 300, because we hear about the Committee 300. We see maps of these people. What is the Committee 300 exactly? Or
like John, what's his name? The guy, the first whistleblower. He wrote a whole book about it, right?
Also known as the Olympians, right?
No, well, it's part of the Round Table group, right? I mean,
British aristocracy. You associate with Quigley, right? Quigley, Rhodes.
This is Jewish hegemony.
It says it on Wikipedia?
Yeah, it says on Wikipedia.
Oh, that's horrible. Gosh, Wikipedia. Somebody needs to fix this. Shame on you, Wikipedia. We're just pointing you out for being bad. Well, anyway.
Can't you just edit it? Anybody can edit it, right?
No, but I probably can. I still have some clout there. The Anglo-American Establishment, Carol Quigley. This is not the right one. No, Quigley was the professor who created the Rhodes Scholarship and was involved with the Olympians, and had also gone a lot to Italy and been friends with the Club of what became the Club of Rome. Like the predecessor for the Club of Rome was another name, I forget, but it had something like Rome in it. But yeah, they're often connecting this with anti-Semitism and Ford's Protocols of the Elder of Zion, which I think is interesting. That was not okay. Rathanu was actually deploring the oligarchic implications of the statement and did not suggest that the 300 were Jewish. 300 men, all of whom know one another, guide the economic destinies of the continent, and seek their successors from their own milieu.
So I think there's actually a lot to this, except the Committee of 300 is an amalgamation of a bunch of different things. Club of Rome is a good example of one of these. Another sort of offshoot of Club of Rome, you could say, would be the Jekyll Island Hunt Club, which had a lot of the same members. I think it was J.P. Morgan, I think, was in both of those.
And the Warburgs were in both as well.
The Warburgs were in both. There was just like an endless number of names, like the who's who. Like Jekyll Island Hunt Club was the most elite crew that they could put together.
We got to make Caddyshack again, but on Jekyll Island. Keep going.
But there was an interesting sync here, because that article brought up the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and this is something that I find beyond fascinating. Not a lot of people know. One is that's a book that Will Eisner covered that originally got him a lot of clout. One of his very earlier books was called the Protocols. Yeah. Not a lot of people know about Eisner, this one, but Will Eisner, bro, like the Will Eisner. And on top of that, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion is where one of the I'm blanking on the name. One of the brothers that ran the CIA, he's the one that went and actually tried to disprove and prove the conspiracy out of it. Dulles, the Dulles brothers.
Yeah.
So that's where he got his clout. I think it was Alan Dulles was basically writing like a dissertation on how the Protocols of the Elders was a Russian conspiracy. But if he hadn't have done that we might not have never really known Dulles as a household name. And likewise with Will Eisner, it was like an instrumental work in his original career, like his very starting. So there's an interesting sync here between Disney, Dulles, and
Don't
the
forget
protocols
Ford.
of the Elders of Zion.
Another sync is a
Don't forget
Balfour
Henry Ford,
Declaration.
because the only reason the Russians had the book was because Ford included a copy with every Model T he sold and sent it
I
to
didn't
the royal
know that.
families.
That's insane.
He sent it to
International Jew.
he's like, I had no idea, and he freaked out, and he sent this book to all these people, and including the royal families of the Nicholas, the Tsar Romanov, the Romanovs. I'm sorry. So he sent it to Nicholas Romanov, and Romanov was like, "This, are you sure? This seems kind of ridiculous. I don't know." But he got some people to look into it, and he had some people say, "Sure, it's true." And so they all were, he actually he might have started the communist revolution because he made it possible for them to stop the Decembrist coup. Well, I'm just saying, though,
with a caveat, it wasn't Jews, but I think it was French Freemasonry that originally was written about, and then it just got distorted into whoever wanted to point a finger at somebody.
Right. Well, it was also very useful because it led to Henry Ford had just built a factory in Moscow and several other factories to build parts for his cars. And then in 1917, the revolution came. So by 1919, everything he had in Russia that he had just built was being used to make new Soviet things and had been seized by the people. So he kind of caused that because he destabilized the royal family's belief in their own henchmen.
I had no idea. That's insane.
Well, I mean, they know exactly how to start a revolution. I mean, there's no doubt that the Romanovs were oh, you don't believe that? They did have Trotsky and everybody, the whole gang, everybody that fits the profile.
Keenan
Tsar
says,
Nicholas was British. Like majority of the European royal families all have their genetic ties to the British royal family, which is why people call them the illegitimate royal families.
I mean, the thing is, it's like they connected to a nomadic group of people, so it's really easy to make them look bad,
And just look up the message I just sent you. Basically, it explains the whole dynamic of the roundtable groups.
Is it in the Twitter?
It's in the message. This is a message. Yeah.
What? Not that one.
At the bottom.
There we go. This guy here.
So look at it. See, it's a roundtable. Can you
this
zoom
guy?
in?
Yeah.
So we have the CFR, we have Trilateral, we have Union, we have Club of Rome, we have the Bilderberg.
Of course, it's the 6-pointed star, right?
Is this really accurate? Because this is kind of supposing that these things are all equal to each other, and I don't know if they are. I think the Separate makes sense because some of these groups are fundamental to the others, depending on what they're trying to do.
Didn't Club of Rome die with J.P. Morgan?
Club of Rome still exists, I believe.
Wait, who were all the people that died?
The
important people that died on the Titanic sinking.
Well, there's the Guggenheim.
Astors. The main one was the
Astor.
Jacob Astor, who was Nikola Tesla's last remaining financier.
Yeah. Well, basically everybody that's opposed to the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a broader conspiracy.
The Macy's family was also big too.
Were they?
Yeah, the Macy's were also on the.
There's a lot of rich people trying to climb on the boat.
Oh, dude, and the people that weren't on the boat is even more interesting because again, J.P. Morgan,
biggest suite didn't show up.
He had his own suite, and at the last second, he pulls out. But he also calls two of his homeboys from the Jekyll Island Hunt Club. One of them was Hershey of Hershey's Chocolates, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, I'm not going. Wink, wink. It might sound weird that I built this big, room for myself, and I'm still not going. Wink, wink."
The Titanic sinking follows the exact same playbook as 9/11. It was the same thing with the insurance fraud scandal they had also with the whole RMS ship company.
No better way to burn the books. This is.
Have you ever seen the book that the Titanic was based on? Like the book that was written before the Titanic came out?
No.
I'm gonna have to look it up here.
No, because wasn't that the biggest conspiracy? This is the one that sank was not Titanic. It was the other boat.
They swapped it out to a different ship for insurance.
Yeah, well, because the first ship got hit, but it wasn't insured. Or there was like a debate about the insurance policy. So then he decides to sink the other one.
It was a sister ship
or the Titanic.
I don't think it was
Lusitania, right?
It wasn't Lusitania.
It's the Britannic. The Britannic.
Yeah, Britannic. Yeah.
So what's funny is the Britannic was like nearly ready to be retired. So the idea was they painted the Britannic and then they made people think it's the ship of Theseus idea, right? You take a ship apart, you replace each part, and then you have a ship next to it made up of the parts you took away from it.
Exactly
Which one's the ship of Theseus? So this boat crashes, and then they have a major insurance gathering, the same as September 11th, because they've crashed the boat.
Yeah.
But I like that there's a TV show called Time Tunnel from the 60s. And in Time Tunnel, I think is it the first episode that they go back in time? Because they're like, oh no, we're in this underground research center and the government's about to shut us down. We have to go start traveling through time as soon as possible. They end up on the Titanic. And it's you're constantly wondering, like, why do people give such a damn about the Titanic? I mean, over and over again, there's these movies in our generation and theirs about who cares? Well, it makes more sense when you realize that half of the Federal Reserve, half of the money before the Federal Reserve came into place died out when this happened. And it completely decimated the elite class of the United States, the nouveau riche that had been created. And it prepared for what happened 10 years later, which was the final consolidation of wealth in the crash of 29.
Have you seen the show 1899 on Netflix? Like, I'm not much of a Sync
it was
guy,
canceled.
so it's not my strong suit, but I feel like watching that show, there's something there, like in terms of messaging and whatnot.
Yeah. I watched the first episode. I thought it was a bit of a chick flick, but
is this a Titanic related show?
No, it's not Titanic, but basically a bunch of people were stuck on a ship. It's a time loop, right? I mean, every episode. Yeah.
It's Lost on Titanic. Groundhog's Day on Titanic.
Pretty much, yeah.
Again.
But yeah.
Iceberg again.
It's more, I mean, as for regards for chick flick, like if you wanted a show you could watch with your girlfriend, I think, or wife, that is one of the shows, and it's more bearable than what's that one about the Scottish time traveling girl? I forget now.
Scottish time traveling.
No, yeah, that's way too.
I know what you're talking about. Outlander.
Come on. That's the chick flick. So I feel like, just remind yourself, you're not watching Outlander. It's okay. You're watching 1899. I don't know.
Although they they stop caring about the time travel part and get into like the chick flick part for a lot of it.
Dang it. Well, you got to do what you got to do to sell a show. I understand.
And that book was called, the Titanic book was called Futility, The Wreck of the Titan. It was literally called The Wreck of the Titan. And it was a book that was written before the Titanic happened. And it almost, I have this really strong feeling that all these elites, right? They've got absolutely no creativity in their bones. So they just read a book and they're like, this is what I'll do. You know what I mean?
Now think of it. If you look at Titanic, we're talking about the old gods. We're talking about Saturn. We're talking about, I don't know. I think the whole thing about it is the banking system and is tightly connected to retiring the old god, the time god. We got to recycle the money system, and it has to burn to the ashes, like and raise it again as the Aeon of Ores. I don't know.
In the newest DuckTales show, Scrooge McDuck, you find out how he became the wealthiest duck in the world, and he's finally like buying a volcano or something in the 70s or 50s or however it happened. Now he's the richest duck in the world. But then you cut to the future where like Dewey's becoming the richest duck in the world, and he's like, "Oh, really? You want to be the richest duck? Okay, take it." And afterwards, Dewey has to go find out that it's really hard and that there's like a secret island that Google Earth or Duck Earth, whatever, has erased. And if you look at that island, there's a minotaur and a labyrinth there that has to be controlled by the richest duck in the world, or else that duck's minotaur will get out and it'll kill everybody. And so it becomes too much pressure for him. And he gives the money back to Scrooge and says, "Okay, you can do this."
With Epstein's Island?
I mean, I feel like it is, but also the minotaur in general. Like, what does it mean about,
Well, we're talking about the Minoans and Crete and possibly the predecessors of the Phoenicians, because there was a lot of evidence that all of the things that get attributed to Phoenician culture actually came from the Minoan culture.
Was it Midas? Is it Midas is the father
but
of the Minotaur?
Minotaur in general, like also another sync for Baal?
So I always like the quantum psychology, Stephen Walensky version of Hellenism, that you've got Midas is this king and he's become all powerful, but part of being a king is to be restrained in your power. And so he's restrained his power in the personification of the Minotaur, which is the beast, which is his son, but also is, it's separated and he has to isolate. He's keep a labyrinth around it. He's got this intellectual manifestation of himself, Daedalus, who's created this labyrinth. And then you've got his wife who actually wants his masculinity and his power to be used, exploited. She wants to be part of that. So she's actually disguising herself as a monster in order to bend over backwards for the Minotaur, literally and metaphorically, right? And then from there, you've created this issue where he's cheating on himself with his wife, or his wife is cheating on him with himself, with the part of him that he's separated from himself.
It's like multiplicity.
Right. But also, there's the beast in man, right? Like this is a thing. This is a part of ourselves that is being isolated.
Well, and the connection of all
message.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just uploaded. So this was a couple of weeks
ago.
So they discovered where the origin of Minotaur might have been, in the palace of Knossos. Knossos. Oh, it's a palace called
Knossis.
Yeah. So I don't know if I included an article in there. It should be in the.
This is also where they found incredible, indisputable proof of like thousands of dead children and Tophets and sacrifice, which is also another link to the Minotaur, because the Minotaur was placed there, and the children of Athens' elite would have to be sacrificed to this Minotaur every like 1 year or 7 years, depending on the story. But this is also like some of the original sort of DNA of sacrificing the elites of children to this bull-headed god.
Yeah, so it is Baal then.
Yeah, for sure.
Baal,
Baal would have been like Zeus. Baal was afar, but
I see Baal as the father. That's the thing. This is sort of because this is the child, right?
It's all this same concept of the old god trying to stop the aging process. He knows he's dying. He's going to be banished to Tartarus. So right. So they have to. Saturn has to eat his own children. The Cronus have to eat all the Olympians. See Titanic, Olympian. See the ship names. You see the ship names. They're trying to. It's the same tale over and over and over.
This whole idea of like eating sacrifice for like eating children and sacrificing youth for your own longevity, wouldn't that tie into like Tay-Sachs and whatnot?
What is it? Tay-Sachs?
Yeah, what's that?
It's an actual medical disease,
genetic disorder, destructive nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. How does this happen?
Well, it's apparently like a lot of conspiracy theories within the whole 4chan circles have linked this with the whole adrenochrome, whatnot.
Is this where you get that weird extra part of your pupil in the eye? Is that?
I haven't looked much into it. As a recent discovery of mine.
That's actually called black cornea, and it literally comes from adrenochrome converting into melanin inside your eyeball.
We have Thomas here.
Go back to that article. It says approximately 1 out of 3,000 Ashkenazi Jews are affected.
And French Canadians of Quebec, and also Amish and Cajuns. Okay,
people with 60
I need to look more into this, but apparently this Tay-Sachs stuff is called the King's disease, where like these people required like some kind of like a Vlad the Impaler type blood drinking ritual, where like they in order to heal from this genetic disorder that constantly kills the body. Wow. And like the only cure for it back in the 16th century was in Israel.
Interesting.
Isn't that what stem cells is all about? The stem cells.
It's like it ties to the stem cells, ties to the adrenochrome, it ties to a bunch of this whole like concept of drinking blood for
Caddyshack. Even no, I'm just kidding. But what is the deal? What is the deal with the cure? You just said they found a cure in Israel. How could you cure a genetic condition?
I don't know. Like I said, this is a recent discovery of mine. And I'm currently looking more into it. But this Tay-Sachs stuff has been documented back since the 15th, 16th century, and apparently was dubbed the King's disease, and which required a bunch of these kings to drink blood in order to actually subside the symptoms.
In the 1960s and early 70s, when biochemical basis of Tay-Sachs disease was first becoming known, no mutations had been sequenced directly for genetic diseases. Researchers of that era did not yet know how common polymorphisms would prove to be. The, quote, Jewish fur trader hypothesis, with its implications that a single mutation must have spread from one population to another, reflected the knowledge at this time. Subsequent research, however, has proven that a large variety of different hexa mutations can cause this disease. Because Tay-Sachs was one of the first genetic disorders for which widespread genetic screening was possible, it is one of the first genetic disorders in which the prevalence of compound heterozygosity has been demonstrated. Compound heterozygosity ultimately explains the disease's variability, including the late onset forms. The disease can potentially result from the inheritance of 2 unrelated mutations in the hexa gene, 1 from each parent. Okay, so this could happen this is not that uncommon, actually.
Hex.
And like this whole Tay-Sachs stuff ties into like the whole concept of Amalekites and them being the people that drink blood and whatnot, all this other stuff. There's a lot of theology and other stuff tied to it, especially blood libels and whatnot, and eventually leads into the modern day practices of adrenochrome. There's definitely something here, but that I just don't know yet because I haven't done my research to give you to tell you everything. But I'm just throwing this out there to make sure people are aware.
I'm glad you're bringing this stuff up, man, because I haven't heard of Tay-Sachs before, and I've been doing a deep dive on adrenochrome, and this lines up with a lot of interesting things.
Exactly, right?
Well, Bernard Sachs, you've got connections to Harvard, Mount Sinai Hospital, and he's the one
Goldman
that put together the connection to the Ashkenazi Jews.
Just this year, February 10th, 2020. No, sorry, last year. The first ever gene therapy announced to use adeno-associated virus, AAV, to deliver correct instructions for the hexa gene. So using adenoviral to mutate your DNA to fix it as of last year. Wow.
Which also ties into the reason why China is doing all this like gene therapy, gene manipulation stuff like that these days of like getting your the designer babies and whatnot.
Right. Thomas, though, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were about to say.
No. I mean, I was just saying those 3 things are really interesting because adrenochrome, like we were just mentioning, it gets tied into like blood libel, and it almost just seems like someone just injects it in there just to like, take a turd in the punch bowl. But there's actually these connections, like the Mount Sinai Hospital connection and the Bernard Sachs, to actually say that this affects a larger aspect of Ashkenazi Jews more so than anyone else. It adds like another angle to the whole like blood libel, shade that
what happened, what could have happened to people, and it'll say, but it's also interesting how it affects the Arcadians. Like, it makes you wonder about the whole spreading of the world population and all the fact that this could have emerged in different places. They're saying because genetically it's possible for this to happen if people are doing the same things. I saw a zombie movie from Korea about a week ago that supposed that all these people that were becoming zombies in this movie, about 2 episodes in, you're like, it's not because of the blood, because like somebody gets blood in their eye and you keep expecting it's like, it's because of their behavior, and then they're around other zombies, and then they allow themselves to become less civil, and then they just slip into becoming unhuman. And I was like, oh, that's pretty much a lot of diseases, a lot of behavioral diseases that we have, mimetic diseases. They're not always, we diagnose diseases that aren't really viral or bacterial. They're just behavioral,
Well,
Fear and Loathing, Hunter Thompson, Adrenochrome. Come on, what do you guys think? He talks a lot about Adrenochrome.
I think this is the biggest psyop is Hunter S. Thompson's version, because he says that he made it all up and that it didn't exist and that there was no connections to Satanism before his book, and all of that's BS. Because it was there was a short story called Blood of a Wig that was written that predates this. And essentially, Blood of a Wig is exactly that. It's blood of a schizophrenic patient. They used to think that if you could sneak into an insane asylum and extract the blood of a schizophrenic and inject it, that you would basically go on like an LSD trip. And
plus,
that's where they called
freaking vampire stories. It's not like a completely creative idea.
right. But I mean, in all the interviews, Hunter S. Thompson, and then the movie, like the director's notes, it's like, oh, well, this is all fabricated just for movies. No, this all way predates it. And there's also the movie The Tingler with Vincent Price, which was about LSD being used as a way to torture someone and basically harvest like an evil entity that would grow within like your spinal column. And if you could scare someone enough, it would manifest into an actual monster that would come out of the body.
Like Altered States.
If you look at Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, you look at Johnny Depp is in the film, right? Johnny Depp ends up got into this huge fight with Amber Heard with his fingertip cut off. The fingertip.
There's that finger again.
It was the middle finger, right? The middle finger.
Black Cauldron all over again.
Yeah, but his middle finger, it's all part of the spirit cooking shit. But basically.
And Jerry Garcia, right? Jerry Garcia finger. Never forget, Jerry Garcia performed that ritual. Boom.
I found it.
You guys know this, right? Jerry Garcia, when he was in the Warlocks in Santa Cruz, I think it was down in, by where the Golden Buddha, Golden Fuwa is now. He did the ritual by the Paul Sweethouse. And
yeah, go ahead.
well, the story goes that he cut off his finger in a log and a wood chopping accident or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. And after that, he just became the greatest guitar player, to a level that wasn't even amusing to humans. Just that good at playing guitar that it was just
he plays
weird.
a 4-string guitar, right?
He's just crazy guy. But
speaking of Adrenochrome, do you know where it's being produced? Wuhan.
Where? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wuhan?
So the Wuhan laboratory that synthesizes adrenochrome professionally is right across the block from the Institute of Virology.
So that's interesting for a couple of reasons. Okay, so one thing is I always wanted to live in Wuhan before the COVID thing. I always thought Wuhan
Really?
I just thought Wuhan
surprised me at all.
I always thought Wuhan sounded like a cool place because I like Shenzhen. I wanted to move to China. I figured that I could have futuristic technology that Japanese can't even have, and that it was just going to be amazing. But then if you go to Alibaba.com and you look for adrenochrome, not saying that I'm just doing this all the time.
I have tried to order from almost every vendor you're going to pull up here, and it's all BS.
Thomas, you're the best. Well, look,
I've been trying to order adrenochrome for the last 6 months.
Yeah, but a couple years ago, it was pretty easy to find, and I think it was it's from some Chinese labs, so I can totally buy this. At the Wuhan lab would be the place where they would produce that. It's the Chicago of China.
But so I'll put the link in the private chat. So it's the place that produces is 3B Scientific Wuhan Corporation Limited.
There you go. See, and if you can use Netscape 5, oh god. But yeah, if you look for,
I mean, if they got a good deal, I'll buy it right now.
If you look for anything, it used to be up until 2010. You would go to Wuhan. I could tell them the name. I would go to Wikipedia, type in the name of a chemical, and then or the code for it, and then they would bring it back to you perfectly, right? But in 2010, they started making this thing called the Forbidden Scroll, and the Chinese research chemicals outlawed forbidden scroll. And when they did this, all of a sudden that's when fentanyl, crazy
I was supposed to mention that,
and all that stuff emerged after the 2010 and 2012 forbidden scrolls. There's a second part of the forbidden scroll. There's been thousands and thousands of substances which were non-pharmaceutically controlled, really great chemicals of all different kinds. And beyond that, they could make viruses. So if you wanted to make an adenoviral that was going to be used by BioCurious labs, we would go in Santa Cruz to Sunnyvale, and it's just over the hill. And at biocurious.org, there's a free lab. You don't have to pay to use it. You can pay $100 to have your own projects and everything like that. But in general, you have access to millions of dollars worth of equipment. And then from there, you would design a new virus strain, send it to Japan online, and then they could produce it. And they're probably producing a lot of that stuff in China now as well. So Wuhan was the place you could go if you were a designer genomics. You would you would send it to Wuhan, and you get I get genomic sequencing done out of Wuhan. So it's a very useful place.
I tell you a little bit of history of Wuhan. Okay, Wuhan was an ancient Chinese capital a long time ago, thousands of years ago. Many dynasties used it as a capital. And during World War II, Japan ended up invading Wuhan. Right. And, Japan, their biological weapons manufacturing was even more advanced than Nazi Hitler. I mean, Nazi Germany. The unit, the 731. Right. You heard about the Black Sun. It's codenamed Black Sun, Saturn. So basically, they were setting up camp. They were setting up shop in Wuhan. So actually, the Japanese were the first one who set up biological warfare unit.
I've never seen this movie. Oh my god! I want to see this movie. About it.
I saw the whole thing. It's horrible, but I don't even know how the effects were really good. I'm like,
I like that stuff. I'll watch it.
Yeah. So the Japanese project with Unit 731 was eventually sold to the Americans. They create the CDC. Then eventually the Fort Detrick biochemical program, which was the predecessor.
Don't forget Douglas Dietrich, but also remember that the Japanese did pickle people. So if in a weird way, the CDC comes from pickling people. I just want to.
Yeah. But the first trial of Fort Detrick was in Korea, 1952, when they sprayed anthrax in North Korea. They were exposed for this, but so a plane that was spraying anthrax in Pyongyang was shot down. Eventually, the U.S. Air Force guys was captured and forced to make a statement, and then eventually, when they came back home to the U.S., they denied the whole thing. But
you should also look up, the history of Manchurian Candidate, right? The MK
Yeah.
Ultra. I mean, why did that come from? This the Korean War.
Yeah, the MK Ultra has its origins in the Korean War.
It did.
That's pretty
it did.
interesting.
It was
Elaborate.
The soldiers the American soldiers were brainwashed and sent home, and they were like, wait.
Yeah. So initially, so the guy, the person, the first victim of MK Ultra was the man that was behind the whole Fort Detrick projects. He's the guy that came up with the special anthrax formula that destroyed all the crops in North Korea, which was the predecessor to Agent Orange.
Yeah.
I think it was about Frank Olson.
Yeah, Frank Olson.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
The MK Ultra was specifically made.
Building. Another one.
Yeah, MK Ultra was specifically designed
Another
to
one.
silence Frank Olson.
Wow, from Wisconsin.
Didn't he jump off a building? I forgot how he
Yeah, he jumped off the
He
building.
got pushed out the window by his handlers. What
Pushed
happened?
through bulletproof glass was the story,
Yeah.
right? Bulletproof
Yeah.
glass is always.
Convenient.
Never forget the bulletproof glass. That's key.
The same thing like the General Forrestal. Whoa! Push out of the house.
So the Korean mind control is interesting because on one level, I'm a Californian. I was taught horrible, crazy things. One of them was that Korean mind control might have been a misunderstanding by the Americans. I'm not saying that entirely, but I saw some interviews from some of the guys who stayed in Korea after the soldiers were supposedly mind controlled, and what they said was, okay, yeah, there was coercion and peer pressure. Like if anybody doesn't do it, none of us eats because we're all a team. So everybody has to work together. And if you're not part of the team, you're not in the military. So obviously you're going to go along with that. And at a certain point, you find out things because they're telling you things like, wait, America's not the greatest country on earth. I mean, shockingly, even in the 50s, it wasn't. And Korea wasn't the worst place on earth. More importantly, that was the thing that was probably the most confusing to them. And so after a while, they're like, wait a second. I never read this book on communism from Marx, and they read it. I don't know. You got the sirens after you again, Eddie.
Yeah,
what's that movie? Volunteers with
to.
Tom. You guys ever watch Volunteers with Tom Hanks?
I tell you why I always have an ambulance by window.
I haven't, but like I know what you're talking about. The prisoner of war, the Korean War prisoner of wars. That was a state that decided to stay in North Korea.
This movie's about like the CIA and the Peace Corps. So you've got this guy who's evading a gambling debt from Connecticut or something, and he runs away to the Peace Corps, takes his friend's name, and when he gets there, he opens up the opium trade. But the opium trade's already in control by the mafia or the cartels, which are in control of by the CIA, and the CIA need the Peace Corps to go into this town to build the bridge. Because they won't let the CIA or the military build the bridge, but they'll let the Peace Corps build the bridge because they're a bunch of hippy-dippy kids. And it just shows how the CIA used American teenagers with their Coca-Cola cans and hula hoops in order to kind of impress these people and use them. Sorry, what were you were about to say about Korea?
Which film is that?
That's Volunteers.
It also had John Candy in it, I believe.
That was the real reason I brought it up. Thank you. Because John Candy gets brainwashed. So he's like, I'm Tom Tuttle from Tacoma, Washington. Have you ever seen a Roman urinal? It's fascinating. I'm here to build architecture. And then they bring him to the rainforest. He's like, you can't crack me. You think you can crack me? I'm an American boy. And then like right afterwards, he's just like, immediately, he's like, wow, dude, Marx. I had no idea. Just like any American college kid at the time or today. You just, as soon as they open that book, they jump in. So,
Mao.
God, yeah, he becomes the worst. But that's a Manchurian moment that happens with John Candy. That's pretty based.
Well, that's crazy. I can't believe that flew under my radar.
The Volunteers is an amazing movie. Actually, it's probably his best. But you brought up Amalek.
Yeah, the people, their whole etymology in their names is right there. The whole people that drink blood, and that's how far this whole Tay-Sachs thing ties back.
Wow, the Amaleks. Yeah, I mean, so this is interesting because we hear about Kuru and we hear about Tay-Sachs now. I mean, this idea that there are genetic changes that happen when you drink blood. You've seen those videos. Is blood good for you? Cannibalism healthy?
What?
Yeah. Yeah, the article came out like a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, what?
Brought to you by Skillshare. Well, actually, they're doing it all the time. This is a 5-year-old video. There's so many of these videos.
Well, if you look up what they call medical
what's good, Bernie?
cannibalism.
What up?
Bernie always comes in when we're talking about.
He gets excited about blood. He's like, wait, I know about this. Bernie, what do you think about blood
cannibalism?
Cannibalism, a good thing? What do you think about the health benefits of cannibalism? This is what they're pushing on us right now, and it's not just a new thing.
Supposedly was created from
bovine cows eating cows, and that
only we
creates
get to do it,
holes
right?
in your brain. So
Don't let
I'm
cows
going
be
with no.
cannibals. Wait, you're just saying
Insects,
cows can't be
yes.
cannibals, but we can be cannibals as long as cows can't. Wait, insects can? That's all right? I don't know. This is kind
Well,
of
insects to females, to men are bitches, you know, like your spider, you get to fuck once and then, you know, she eats you. That's just the way it is. But
It's interesting that you bring up
that's
the
the
animals,
scientific
it's
takeaway.
not a good thing.
Well, they do bring up kuru in this documentary, but then they say, hey, just so you know, kuru is just it's a certain kind of thing, and there's ways around it because you can avoid prion disease if you eat it this way. Look at these people. They're really trying to say that there's health benefits of being a cannibal.
Oh
Where
my god.
So I mean,
you just don't eat the brain. You don't get kuru if you don't eat the brain.
Yeah, but like, what's the worst that could happen?
You traumatic benefits of being a Satanist.
That's what they're saying. And if you do it, then they're going to say, okay, like even if you get a disease, we can take care of you, right? Because we have an adenoviral we can inject into you that will change your hexa blood enzyme in order that you will be okay. So this is
Saturn hexagon.
So worst case scenario, we'll give you a vaccine and you can just be a cannibal. That is what I'm reading here.
This is all Abrahamic madness. They're all Abrahamic. The true God is Saturn, Satan. Did you get it?
Yeah,
maybe, but I have to call up on some Joseph Campbell, who then I think quoted like Marco Polo, I want to say, or it might have been Herodotus, where it was basically posing cannibalism as a social taboo and not necessarily an inherently bad thing. Where in some cultures, I guess where kuru would come from, but like the elder would die and the young would eat the elder because it was seen as a way of passing on the knowledge and the tradition that they had accumulated for their, 80 to 100 years on the earth. So just letting them die or bury them underground would have been seen as just like throwing away, like your inheritance essentially. So it would be sacrilege to bury them.
That I could see as not evil and potentially like a magical multiplier on the 1x like scale.
But I mean, if you just walked into the room and you just see a bunch of kids eating grandma, you're not going to be like, oh, I wonder what the subtle nuances are here. I wonder if it's a cultural, because we're all raised to think, zombies and Satanists and that's evil what's happening. But it was done out of, like love in some cultures.
But what if you just start love eating people?
I mean,
well, I think that's actually a downside is you can get addicted to it.
We've got this depersonalization that's coming, and we are seeing it all the time. We also have people that are transhumanizing, but also devolving, I think, all the time. And this is something that we might see more and more people that we don't consider human for whatever reason. Either they're better or worse. And humans already seem to figure out how to eat animals. They process and psychologically figure that out. It's not a new thing. That's not some new world order thing. Native Americans would hunt and gather as well. So I don't know how safe we are from cannibalism becoming status quo.
Andreas, can you look up this? I just sent you two Twitters. The second to the last one. There's an article. I don't know if there's any validity to it about COVID and prion research. Yeah.
Ooh.
So.
Oh yeah, CJD. Yeah.
So paper dropped on yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you read better.
Paper dropped on International Journal of Vaccine Theory, Practice and Research, CJD, human version of mad cow disease, days after COVID-19 injection, formerly rare, emergence of new Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, 26 cases of the human version of mad cow disease, days after COVID-19 injection. Fun stuff.
So then I try to link it all together with
Dude, I'm gonna make my new hashtag weaponized prion research. That's gonna be. I'm gonna see if I can make that trend.
That thing took forever, man. I'm waiting for it, man. I'm like, come on, just unleash it.
Well, guys, we're pretty close to the end. Is there anything you want to make sure we bring up before I start to show them where they get more of your content the rest of the week?
Oh wait, I look at my last Twitter. Hold on.
Okay.
Just the last one.
Oh yeah. You mean the message? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not that significant. But
that's
Paris
cool.
Hilton,
I'll pull it.
Paris Hilton had her baby, so I thought it's kind of a weird thing going on.
Paris Hilton had her baby. Well, that's just beautiful. The coming destruction of USA. Paris Hilton names child Phoenix. I like that name. Her IG emphasized inspiration from the rise from ashes of destruction. I want to name my kid Saturn. I think that'd be interesting. Yes, Last week, the masked singer Phoenix was unmasked to be Wilson of Kaiser Chiefs versus Kansas Chiefs, who won Super Bowl 7. I forget. 57. What it is? 57.
Yeah, 57.
Another week prior.
it's not the strongest link of trying to connect it all together. But I thought, we go back to the
I'll take Phoenix. I'll take any Phoenix I can get. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's a blizzard in Phoenix, I thought also just snow in Phoenix before ice and fire. It could be.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, that's it. I'm just.
There's also your Phoenician link too.
You got a thing here to the.
Right?
Yeah, because the word Phoenix and Phoenician is the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the same etymology. Yeah.
Good day, gentlemen. This is a pre-recorded brief. Is there anything about Hal you want to bring up or no?
No, just that Hilton is featured in 2001. The meeting room of Hilton, and,
right?
And the chairs they're sitting on is called Jinn. Do you know that's the name of those red chairs? They're basically sitting on demon chairs.
Wait, why are they called? Yeah, why are they demon chairs?
That's the name of the
manufacturer. Yeah, that's the name of the brand of that chair.
So jinn is the Islamic word for demons.
Yep, that's genies, right? So
right, genies. We gotta. I think Aladdin. We get a bad rap to demons, and this is something Disney did right.
Misunderstood. Yeah.
Disney said, "Hey, look, demon is genie, kids. You got to stop thinking about it wrong." And I'm just gonna leave you with that. All right. In the meantime, make sure that you go to Crypto Alchemist and look at Bernie's amazing videos. He's been doing videos when I haven't been doing videos. He's still been doing videos. I missed the last one. I regret it for the rest of my life.
Sound is a good one.
It had such amazing beatboxing,
rice coil on the end of it and everything. It got magnets spinning and shit. And I just finished a stream with Paul Cook as well. Right before I hopped on here,
Luke,
covering the
geoglyphs.
Luke
is brilliant.
Pyramids.
I love Luke.
Also
I love Ancient Historia and Jacobs, dude. But also, just when you had who is Jacobs the guy who does your beatboxing, or who did that? The beatboxing.
Ominous
Ken. Ominous beatboxing was just so clutch.
We'll be back in 2 weeks with Ken again for the next Science of Sound episode 7, and the Hutchinson should be on that one as well.
Make sure you guys are watching these episodes.
Nancy's going to be talking about layering 432 with 440 and 444, all three on top of each other simultaneously, and the effects that has. So We're actually going to go deep into it.
Dude, it's so good. And you're going to love it, not just for the science, not just for the beatboxing, but for the whole freaking thing. But the beatboxing is so good. Oh my God, it's amazing. All right.
So,
and make sure.
I'm sorry, but a lot of you started inviting Hutchinson. I've been following Hutchinson since 20 years ago. What's going on with him? I mean,
he's got him and his wife live in around Minnesota, unless they're in Canada. I get confused, but
they're awesome. Kicked out Canada thing.
We got to. You want to do a show with them?
We're doing a Crystal Battery series with them.
Bernie, let's get Eddie on with John Hutchinson. I think that's awesome.
Eddie, definitely. We'll be on the next one.
I want to see him. I want to see him melt the metal. I want to see them melt the house down using sonic waves.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm gonna make sure I show you guys. What was the last one? Okay, Synchronous. Make sure you guys go to Synchronous and you go on the Twitter and you join his Facebook group, because the Facebook group, if you're on Facebook, is the one place to be on Facebook. I'd say it's where you're gonna find out.
I'm out of jail. I'm out of Facebook. At 60 days in prison.
Jesus, you got a 60?
Well, it's back to back because I made fun of a trans person and I got.
Don't do it again. He's about to do it again. I can't believe this guy. All right, but make sure you go to Synchronous on Twitter, because I follow his Twitter every day. I got it on all alerts, and it's really provoking to think about the world this way instead of the way they want you to think about the world. Don't drink Coca-Cola. It's got more than cocaine in it. It's got poison. Okay, Paranoid American is the greatest comic book series creator, publisher of comic books, as well as animated coloring books. If you want to get the American Cryptid coloring book, you're a genius, because that's what you should get. You should get a couple copies of this. Make sure you get the physical if you want to make sure you can print in it. You have your kids, give it to your dad. I got one from my dad. I'm gonna get.
And I've been running AI on all of the coloring book pages too, that you can see on the Instagram page, along with a whole bunch of spicy sort of like deep fake memes that I've been posting lately.
Make sure you guys.
I'm sure it's gonna get me banned off of it.
You got to follow Paranoid American on Instagram. This stuff is wild and awesome. Look at some of this stuff. Some of the best AI art. I feel like I'm doing pretty good. Thomas is doing better. He's going to help me set up. It's some good stuff. And
I got to step it up. Yeah, and if you keep scrolling down, you'll see there's a frog dude down there. That's from the coloring book. And all of the one in the middle too. Yeah, that was a page from the coloring. That's the what's it called? The Frogman.
Dude, teaching AI to use coloring books. This is Coloring inside the lines teaches discipline. I heard that once from someone who studied Confucius.
Wow.
And then there's an alien one too that also came from this one right here.
level.
That came from the coloring book too. And that's all using stable diffusion and like 20 different custom mods and LoRa networks and hyper networks and text embeddings and all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
I'm
And
gonna
also
be in touch with you because I've got so much artwork that I need to do that with, and we need
Hit me
to
up,
launch
man.
some
That's I'm
NFTs.
trying to be like the aficionado in like the conspiracy world. I want to be the go-to
He's
for
doing a good
deep
job.
fakes and AI and stuff. Yeah, thank
Dude,
you.
this looks like it was painted by, you go through a Mormon church and they
This-
got those pictures of
Yeah.
Jesus with Moroni.
This one was actually a Babysitters Club influenced.
Oh, I love
Oh,
it.
no.
It's so
So I was
good.
training on Babysitters
Wow, I pulled
Club
up that
books.
comment at the wrong time.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for being here, and I love you all. And we'll see you tomorrow with Wednesday Ultra, and next week for another Think Tank. Take care.
Thank you guys.
Ciao.
Later.
Oh, wait. Also, go to Targery Nova to check for Gunwoo, because Gunwoo doesn't have his own page, but he's in the group and he's got the research. You want to check it out. Peace.
And gun moves on.